Hello, everybody. My name is Robin Pelche, and you are listening to the Spirit Wisdom Podcast. Today, I have Frank White, a professional sorcerer and badass of the occult, coming on today to talk about all things magic. It's been absolutely beautiful meeting him and going on this adventure and joining forces to have these conversations. I found his content a few weeks ago, and it has absolutely changed my life. I knew I was ready for this next level in my practice and in witchcraft, sorcery, magic, meditation, all things, that really build us up and help us create a life of our choosing, empowering us to take control of our life and make this world a better place. And being able to, experience these teachings and actually put them to use has already changed my life in so many ways. And I'm so grateful. So I would just love to introduce you again to Frank White. How are you doing today? You are muted.
All right. Yeah. Thank you for having me, Robin. I'm looking forward to these podcasts. Excuse me for the notifications here. I feel good in spirit. My body is fucked though, because I'm really exhausted from a new workout regimen. But I'm going to perform because I'm a professional. So let's go. Ready.
Let's do this. Thank you so much for coming on. I appreciate it. So I know we discussed a little bit about what we wanted to talk about today, and you are an expert in all things magic. So I thought this would be a good opportunity to kind of break it down and give it to people in a way that's, easy to understand, digestible, and, what is magic? How do we use it in our lives?
Ooh, well, interesting question, Robin. So, well, magic is the practical application of an understanding of natural laws that most people don't have. This knowledge has been intentionally beaten out of society, through violent measures such as the Inquisition and others, right? But the point is, it's an understanding of a connection between the inner worlds and the outer worlds, between what we call the astral, which is nothing but the plane of imagination. And most of all, it's the connection or the understanding of the connection between thought and matter. And once you understand how thought and matter interact with each other and you learn certain techniques, you can change reality. Now, this is different from The Secret, because The Secret is very what's the word? It's like a lot of people know about that, right? The movie and the books, but they leave out important parts because this is more like law of attraction and visualization and then creative visualization that is powerful. Yes, absolutely. You can definitely use that to bring you awesome things. But magic in its strict sense uses spirits. And when it comes to spirits and calling of the spirits and using them, that's what's called demonic evocation or even angelic evocation. But angelic evocation is usually used for something called theurgy, which is essentially getting in touch with higher spiritual realms, so to evolve one's soul, right? For practical means where you actually want to change the world in some way or another, which is usually what we mean when we say magic. You would use demons, and the evocations of demons follow a strict set of rules. There are clear, clear techniques that you have to use in order to make them successful. And this is a super, super interesting tool that can really turn your life upside down in many different ways. And however, I don't think it's for everybody. It shouldn't be for everybody. But if the person is interested in studies enough and then works the techniques, they can really do some crazy things with it. And if you want, I can go into more and more examples of what is possible with those spirits. But yeah, I would summarize it as that.
Oh, that's really interesting. So you would kind of separate magic a little bit from law of attraction.
Yes. I would separate creative visualization, which is something that the human being does and creates, from witchcraft and sorcery, which is, in its strict sense, it is working with supernatural entities, even though they're not supernatural, they're interdimensional. They're just bound to a different set of rules than we are. So from our perspective, it looks supernatural what they're able to do, such as we would look supernatural to a two-dimensional being. I mean, if you were to imagine a being that lives in two dimensions, that is only able to perceive two dimensions, it would live here, right? And for it to cross from here to there, it would take a lot of time and a lot of effort, and it could only travel like this, right? Whereas we, in the third dimension, we can just do this, boom, and we're there instantaneously, you see? So in a similar sense, what they're able to do looks godlike to us, and it's like, oh, incredible. But they're not all powerful. They're just way more powerful than us. They're just ruled by a different rule set, which ironically makes the sorcerer having power, lets the sorcerer have power over the demons. That's the only reason why they listen to you, right? You understand how those occult universes work. You understand the power of symbols and sacred geometry, and based on that, you're able to not only call the spirit into this world for a short amount of time, but you can actually contractually force the demon to do what it is that you want it to do. That's called the ligatio in a classical sense. And yeah, so that's really what it is. Law of attraction is something that we all can use. You've been on my meditation class yesterday, right? So this is something where you can use your own mind to cause changes. However, the things that a demon can do for you are just way more powerful, much faster manifested. And I don't know, if you have 10 years of sitting down and meditating on something, that's great. However, I don't want to wait for 10 years. I want to be able to call a demon and make it happen within 7 to 10 days.
Yeah, I can understand that. And as you were saying that, I'm kind of thinking about my own journey and the things that I used to think were magic. So you could walk into like an occult shop and buy, say, like a candle. So would you consider that more like law of attraction manifestation than magic, even though it's technically, say you're using, they call it candle magic or spells?
It's still your own mind that's doing the work. The candle has no magic. The magic in this case is the candle flame in that case serves two purposes. Number one, it stimulates your third eye, because if you use that's a technique called tratak in certain yoga traditions. There's a meditation where you look at a flame and allow that to stimulate your eyes, and through that the pineal gland can be stimulated. That's definitely something that is possible. And then on top of that, it allows you a focal point. It allows your mind to focus on one point. Magic, or not magic, but law of attraction and using your own visualization powers to manifest things is always dependent on you using the energy that is in your subconscious, right? Such as an example would be the difference between a light bulb and a laser beam. We're constantly emitting energy, right? And that energy is very unfocused. When you're using the law of attraction, you want to get really good at that. You would have to focus all of the energy down on one frequency or one intention, which is the difference between a laser beam and a light bulb. And a laser beam can cut through steel. A light bulb can lighten up a room. It's the same amount of energy, but it's focused. You see. It's also with a punch, right? The punch is powerful not because there's so much force behind it, but because the punch lands on one small surface. You know, that's what makes it powerful. So focus is definitely power, right? So this is, by the way, also the reason why most people can neither use the law of attraction or magic. They can't focus their own energies in their own mind, right? But in order to be able to focus the mind, or the subconscious mind, the energies that are stuck in the subconscious mind, we need to usually distract the conscious mind, and then we gain access to the subconscious energies. And that's why the focal point is so important. So the candle spell, usually, yeah, I mean, it still relies on your personal power.
Okay. Well, that I can understand. Then getting into like more misconceptions, like magic is so polarized because you hear a lot in like the occult spheres, like that's high magic or low magic or that's black magic. Like, do you see a difference at all between like how people are polarized against the two?
High magic and low magic. Well, let me say first that I'm not a moral relativist, because a lot of people use what I'm about to say to relative to say that good and evil do not exist, and it literally does not matter what you do. It's all about like the sheep and the wolf, and the wolf is evil to the sheep, right? It's all about perspective. It's not really like that. I do think that there's objective good, objective evil. There are definitely things that you should not do unless you suffer the consequences, because there's definitely something called natural law, which will punish you for violating it, right? But besides that, I don't really see a distinction between high and low magic if it's done correctly. Now, if you just follow your instincts and use magic, let's say you learn the techniques of demonic evocation, right? And you use that simply and solely to satisfy your lowest instincts. That itself will destroy you, right? Because power that doesn't have a purpose tends to self-destruct, if that makes sense. It distracts a person. Let me describe it in the sense of a current. Okay, a current of energy needs to flow, right? And if the energy doesn't flow towards something greater and higher development, it will cause big problems, right? So in the case of a dam, for instance, okay, where they try to store water, eventually the dam breaks because there's too much pressure, right? You can see the same with people that have, let's say, they come into enormous amounts of money, but they don't have a purpose for the money. They will usually use it for self-destructive means, right? The people that can hold on to power long term without self-destructing are the ones that have a purpose for the power, right? And it's the same with everything else. If you come into this power of let's say, the knowledge about the occult and don't have a purpose for it, a higher purpose, and you're not guided by a higher vision or a higher self, you will automatically self-destruct, because if there's nothing, no authority beyond your instincts that guides your actions, you will obviously, you will become a degenerate, and that's really the point. So what I'm saying is, you can use the various manifestations here, or you can use the physical world as a learning ground. However, you have to still be guided by a higher understanding. So you can, in the worst situations, let's say you go to jail for 30 years, it's probably one of the worst situations they can be in. It's like constant, I don't know, it's probably one of the worst experiences, right? But you can use it as a spiritual growth process. Others break because they don't have the spiritual perspective. You said you went through a major disability after your accident, right?
Yeah.
And apparently you grew from it, right? You connected to something greater. So there's definitely value in being in these lower realms, and the physical world definitely has its perks, but for the most part, it's just not a pretty place, and that's because Saturn rules this earth. Saturn is the principle of severity. It's the principle of discipline. It's the principle of learning harsh lessons. And we can accept the lessons and grow through it, or we can just choose to ignore the lessons, and then we'll self-destruct. So the point is, I don't really think there's a distinction between high and low magic. I believe there's a distinction between high consciousness and low consciousness. And if the person has a high enough consciousness, or a refined enough consciousness, they will be able to turn anything and everything into a spiritual lesson.
That is so beautifully said. You just kind of blew my mind a bit there. Then I had the question of like, so why would somebody choose demons? Why would they choose angels to work with? I mean, or say other deities, a lot of witches go to like Hecate, say Lucifer. Myself, I've worked with Jupiter, and that's been, amazing in my life. So like, what, I don't know if you have any advice there, or you're able to break that down a bit, like the differences between like deity work, angels, demons, gods.
Yeah, of course. I mean, first of all, most people have a misconception, in my opinion. Have most people tend to fall into the trap of worshiping the entity when they're working with the entity. You see what I mean? So you will always find the tendency of people. It sounds as if they're always looking for this divine figure that they learned about in church or whatever, but they're trying to replace the man in the sky with Zeus or Hecate, whatever. That's what most people used to do, and the same on the demonic side. They become like these fans of these entities, but that's not how it should work. Magic is a path to spiritual sovereignty and spiritual maturity, which means we're learning from these creatures, we're working with these creatures for the sake of growing ourselves spiritually, and worship is not part of that. So why would a person go to demons instead of angels? Now, first of all, I do work with angels, absolutely. However, you got to understand that the purpose of these energies is different. What does that mean? Everything in the spiritual universe has a purpose, and the purpose of the angels is just not to give you what it is that you want in the moment. The purpose of the angels is to treat you according to where you're at in your spiritual development and help you develop your refined self, and to turn you into a better person, for lack of a better word. Yeah. And I definitely work with angels. I'm a big fan of some of them, right? The point is, demons are not used for spiritual refinement for the most part. Demons are used to, I want to get shit done. I want you to do this for me, please. And they're super helpful. Like there's almost nothing that they can't do for you. They work miraculously. So that's what I said earlier. There's a distinction between spirituality, theurgy, which would make you call up angels more and more and learn from them. And then there's practical magic where you get shit done. See, this is the power that has ruled the world forever. When you look at literally any castle out there, right? And castle was obviously property of the aristocracy and royalty and all that stuff. They all have first of all, they're built on sacred sites, which makes it easier to call demons into the place, right? And secondly, they have places, they have actual ritual temples in built, almost all of them, right? And there are many, many more of those indicators, you see. And also, every king always had a court magician, right? Nowadays, it's of course like underground, but things are coming out more and more, right? Where people realize that the elites are connected to the occult. So it's literally just a power tool. It's a tool to control world events. You see what I mean? You control the chessboard instead of being a pawn on the board. And that's really what magic is about. Magic is a tool for power. We cannot forget that. So, like I said, you have to make a distinction between witchcraft, between magic and spirituality. Now, for those that want to say that it's bad, or that want to call me evil because I do that, first of all, I don't give a fuck. Come to my door and tell me that to my face, right? That's number one. Number two, I would say that I see it like King Solomon. King Solomon is this mythical figure. I mean, it stands to. It's up for discussion if he actually existed. However, he would use demons, and he's the one that captured the 72 demons from the Goetia, right? The evil spirits, and he used them to do good with it, because they literally will do what you tell them to do. You can use them for good, and you can use them for bad. It's the same with a gun. You can use a gun for bad. You can rob somebody, or you can protect somebody, right? Same with everything else, right? It's the once again, it's the person using it. It's their maturity that determines the outcomes. So, yeah. So that's what that would be my answer. It is you that determines what you do with it, and I'm not necessarily a person that thinks in absolutes. You see, because the universe that we live in doesn't exist in absolutes. in a mental world, we can live in absolutes. However, in the physical universe, everything exists on a spectrum. But nothing is absolute. No person is absolutely good. No person is absolutely evil. You will find in the worst person, the worst person, the fucking guy on the death row, you're going to find something good in that individual, you see? And Mother Teresa, like, okay, you'll find something negative about her, we're not perfect, we're not one or the other, and it's just childish to you know um, to work with one without the other. You need to there's something about maturation and growing up psychologically, which is you have to be in touch with your shadow. You have to understand it, and if you do so, you will develop your survival instincts fully. And being an adult has a lot to do with your survival instincts. And if we're not in touch with that, we tend to live in a world of illusions. You see, and that's what a lot of people do who practice magic as like a religion. A lot of Wiccans do that. A lot of people in alternative spirituality in general, they are a little bit delusional. How do you see that? It's you judge the person by the results that they get in life, always. You want to know who a person is spiritually, you judge them by what results they get in the spiritual, because everything in the physical, everything you see in the physical has a spirit behind it, a certain energy behind it. You want to know what the spirit of a certain area is, of a certain area of the city? You just look what it looks like. You just check what it looks like physically, and that will tell you what the energy behind it is. See? And the same with a person, I believe in strength. Strength is one of my highest values. And why is that? Because I believe that might is right. That's it's unfortunately that's the truth in this world, you see. And if your theories and your words and your ideas don't stand the test of reality, they're useless, they're worthless, you see. And that's really what it is about. So in my view, only if you're able to use your spiritual insights and spiritual power to cause real changes here, it's worth anything. Otherwise, I don't care about what you have to say. That's business.
Yeah. Oh, that's so interesting. Kind of like how much this reality is kind of like a dream, how you can see somebody's like, would you say, I guess, like spiritual progress just by like what's around them, or I guess you're able to tell a lot you're able to tell a lot about somebody by what's around them. While you were talking, I was also thinking, because you were talking about kind of like the elites, the people that run this world, and people are so polarized against magical workings, but they fail to realize how they're being used in magical workings, which is when ignorance is absolutely not bliss. It's like everybody is like trying to force change in the world right now. But I think one of the most powerful ways to do that is to learn how to use energies, because that's literally what we're up against. So in the meditation yesterday, you talked a little bit about like Hollywood, and I mean, this is kind of like manifestation and magic at the same time, how people's minds and manifesting and focus ability is being used to kind of shape a reality that the elites want. So I thought that was a really interesting topic that kind of branches into like what we're talking about today as well. And I didn't know if you want to share a bit about that, because that even ties in with like demons, angels, things like that. I mean, it all kind of goes together.
Yeah, sure. I mean, in yesterday's meditation class, we talked about manifestation, right? It was manifestation using altered states in order to manifest. So kind of like using the law of attraction in the right way, right? And I said that there's a so-called ether which connects everything, and in reality it's an electromagnetic field called the ionosphere. So if you telepathically connect to somebody, or for instance, which would mean you send out a signal or a specific intention and the other person picks it up. They don't even have to pick it up consciously in order to act based on that thought, because I mean most people don't even know where their thoughts come from, right? I guess it's like me too. Like, where do these fucking thoughts come from? They're just popping up out of the subconscious, right? And a lot of them are just flowing around in the ether, and they just hit our energy field, and then are transferred into our nervous system when you experience that as thought. So the first step is to synchronize our own brain waves with this field, with its frequency, with the frequency of the field, and then we can think something. We can put enough energy into that thought form, and then it can travel almost instantaneously throughout the globe to any person out there. Now, instantaneously, not really, but it's in 0.4 seconds, it can reach any point in the world, which is nearly instantaneous. Who cares? Who gives a shit, right? So, yeah, and a thought put out into that ether has a tendency to manifest. Now, if you control mass media, that's very powerful, because you can have millions, if not billions, I don't know, like hundreds of millions, billions of people think about the same thing with a lot of emotional content, and based on that, you can definitely control reality, right? And even the name Hollywood is that's a divination tool of the Druids. You know, it's a plant that the Druids would use to do divination, and yeah, Hollywood is showing us the future. It's called predictive programming, so they're giving us certain ideas, you know, and I mean, all of the futures out there are very what they're showing us is very negative, very dystopian, right?
Yeah, huge push towards like apocalyptic things, zombies, end of the world. Like that's all the rage. It's interesting too when you break down language, when you're like, okay, television, like television, channels, things like that. It's all in plain sight.
It was programmed, right? Yeah, programmed. And also, yeah, I mean, many apps out there. I mean, one thing has to be clear, that like the metaverse and artificial intelligence and all these things are definitely tools that are going to be that are being used by demonic forces to break through, right? So there's so many cases of possession based on, let's say, apps with virtual Ouija boards. You know, make no mistakes, these things definitely work. You know, and I mean, if you own virtual reality, which is going to be the new homo for most people, absolutely, you know, then you own their consciousness. Now, what does that mean? You can hijack their minds, and you can use that for everything. You can, I mean, the beings from the other side have an interest in conquering this side. You know, a lot of spirits are trans-dimensional creatures. You know, I mean, I would go as far as saying that this planet is definitely controlled by these creatures in some way or another. You know, I mean, it's a prison planet that we live on, for sure. You know, and yeah, there's some interesting stuff going on there. But I mean, there's this concept of invisible masters, which are essentially the forces behind the throne, and they have been controlling human history for forever, and they have been controlling have been controlling through ruling elites and through spiritual connection. And that's why magic was always in the hands of the elite. Sure. Yeah. Make no
Yeah.
mistake, they believe. They do absolutely believe in that.
Yeah. Yeah. It was interesting because I used to be like polarized against, you know, using magic in any type of way. I wanted to be like ethical and fair and right. And I began to realize that unless I learned how to use these things, they would be used against me. And then I had to drop those perceptions, which you actually really helped me with by watching your content and seeing that if I really want to make a difference in this world, I'm going to have to become, you know, a sorceress myself and learn how to affect things in the astral realms and in the physical and use any means that I can. And yeah, I guess like people come into this world having different strengths and things. And I know for myself, just being um, more spiritually inclined, it it was actually like really exciting when I heard you talk about it the way you did, because I'm like, oh right, this is the way forward. Like this is how we're really gonna start creating. And I almost cringe at like wanting to say new earth, because in the new age they all talk about this thing called new earth. It's like the biggest rage. Everybody's like new earth, new earth. But they would demonize a, oh no, you're, I can't hear you. Sorry.
Like, yeah, when I hear most of those people, I prefer an Earth without those people, to be honest. Like,
Well, they want the aliens to come take them away anyway, so um but yeah, they're always talking about new earth, and they'd be very quick to demonize a conversation like we're having, but little do they realize like it'll be people like us that are actually creating a new way forward that can actually like stand a chance, because a lot of them are just like Tinkerbells, you know, and at any discussion of like what's actually dark, they're gone, they're out of the room. That was one of the scariest parts about my own awakening, is that it wasn't all love and light. I dealt with like entity attack, I dealt with all kinds of things, and you know, all of the teachers that I had at the time that claimed to be able to work in spirituality didn't want to touch these topics with a 10-foot pole. And I was forced to, you know, learn things like the LBRP and um, really seek more knowledge so that I could learn about this realm, study, you know, self or psychic protection, how to communicate with spirits, how to question spirits, how to know what you're working with, because a lot of people don't. And I think that's where a lot of the fear comes from. Like whenever people from the new age, you know, get their first spook, which they will, I mean, they're playing Russian roulette with spirits when they're just opening up to channel, or they're opening up to anything. Um, you know, not realizing that there's so many different types of spirits, and a lot of them aren't what they say they are. So I found that to be quite interesting to see the reality of like what's behind a lot of what looks like love and light, and the most truth and the most power and the most, I would say, even like love has been talking to people who are into the darker arts and who are more grounded, you know, not just being like you're saying, like that's your whole life is just magic, but bringing in the balance in different areas of your life, like diversifying it and becoming good at multiple things. And you said something about balance that really like stuck with me. It's like making sure like you're in the 3D realm as much as you're in the astral realm, like bringing in the balance, making sure you're taking time to like think logically, grounded, practically. And I didn't know if you wanted to add more on that, because you see a lot of people go down this path and they go like really hard in the paint. And that's when people can become, you know, they get magical thinking, or they could become delusional, maybe even more like influenced by spirits, because they want to start working with different spirits. But if they don't have, you know, that authority over their mind, or they're able to kind of like almost like check out of it at some points to like submerge themselves into the physical reality they're in, it can kind of be like that pendulum of extremes.
yeah. Uh, yeah, I say that, and that's my rule for my own life. However, I'm not in a normal situation that most people are in. Most people, I mean, you can't underestimate the day to day that people do, right? I mean, they get up, then it's rushing to work, then it's you know, all kinds of other stuff that they have to deal with. You know, they have a life, have a relationship, they have kids, they have all of this stuff. Um, and it takes time, you know. I mean, I get it. It's I'm glad, or not. I was lucky that remember I learned this at 13 years old, and for my entire like school years, I was trained like hardcore, and obviously as a kid you have more time, and then I always was able to make time for it, right? And now my life is set up in a way where I can literally spend hours and hours and hours doing this thing, you know. So I wouldn't say that's necessarily possible for everybody, you see, and I don't necessarily blame people, because I mean, some people are really, really deep into art, which is like a new passion of mine. I recently developed that, and I realized how little I understand about art. And people that have been in the art field for a long time, they laugh about what the fuck I have to say. It's bullshit, or it's funny. It's ignorance, and that's what an amateur does, you see. And I'm a professional in this art, um, because of my dedication to it and what I'm doing. You see, so what I'm doing definitely doesn't apply to everybody. I can only speak from my own perspective, and well, I don't blame people. I mean, what are they really gonna do? You see, it's the older you get, the less energy you have, the more other responsibilities you have. You have fucking bills to pay. You have other bullshit to care about, and it's not easy, and it's you got to be blessed in some way or another to be able to focus on your spiritual path. That's a real gift. That's real luxury, for real.
Yeah, actually, with the accident I was in, I got 2 years of recovery where I had to be in bed, and my physical body was in extreme pain. But what that gave me was 2 years to study and like almost obsess over the topic so that I could learn. And it's only been a few years for me, and like I'm still just a beginner, but it's almost overwhelming when you get into all the topics, and there's just so much to explore. Like I'm just learning about the Pentacles of Solomon. I did my first meditation today with those to kind of see how the workings of that, and that was really interesting, really, really exciting to like realize there's worlds within worlds. And I listened to your talk today on lucid dreaming, and that got me really excited because I'm like all excited to work with spirits and do all this magic, but there's so much more to explore that's already like very, very accessible to me. If only, we take the time to learn our own mind, our own spirit. And I guess the thing about that is it takes dedication. You have to put in the work to actually develop it. Magic and mysticism and all of it, it's not from what you read, it's from what you experience. Because when you experience, you're going to learn things that you're never going to find in a book. And that's at least been my path. Like I more so would end up having the experience, and then I needed to find a book or a teacher or somebody to help me figure out what had happened. And that was a lot of how I learned. But I thought it was like the most beautiful thing, because you see people who read and read and read, and they can just cite off all these different things, but they don't really have that experience. You can like feel the emptiness in what they're saying. And I guess you call that the armchair occultist. And it's just, there's such a stark difference. You can feel the people who have actually walked the path, but it's really not talked about in spirituality, like how hard it is. Like it's not an easy path to get into this stuff, because you're going to be tested, and if you have shadows and blind spots lurking, I feel like they're going to potentially come and smack you in the face, because they did for me, at least.
Yeah. Yeah, armchair occultist is not my term. It's a pretty old term, actually. I don't know who came up with it, but that's as you said, it's a term for people who have bookshelves filled with books on the occult but never have practiced at all. And that's unfortunately the majority. But once again, that's the majority of any field. Most people are amateurs in life. It's just what it is. But specifically when it comes to spirituality, in my observation, just really interesting. It's a pattern that I was able to observe, that usually people come to this when they're a little bit older, a little bit more mature, because then they have taken care of like the mundane stuff for the most part. I don't know, they've reached a certain level in their career. They have done their procreation, and now they realize that, let's say, a marriage is not what they thought it would be when they were like 12 years old. They thought that's like the goal in life, and that's like the end of it all. Happily ever after, right? They realize that there's a life after that, and then people get interested in what's beyond that, what's beyond that. And it's also, a big point is also when people are confronted with their own mortality. Could be like in your case, it could be an accident. It could be, when you realize that your body is actually vulnerable, you start to think different about life and about yourself. Or people close to you start dying or something like that. Then a lot of people get interested in the occult because of that. It's very few people that get interested in it seriously very early on. Maybe as like a shock value thing where they start, sacrificing cats or some shit and wear gothic clothes. You know, uh, but rarely seriously early on, and um, yeah, because it's just not the right time. I mean, that's a pattern that I've observed, right? And there are a lot of illusions that have to be overcome. And at the end of the day, a lot of people using this as an escape from the harsh conditions of the physical world. Now, and everything's as above, so below. You see, so everything in the physical world must be reflected in the spiritual world in some way or another, which means that we're going to have just as nasty circumstances spiritually, or even more nasty circumstances spiritually as we have physically. Now, this is what I always tell people: if you're not able to deal with the circumstances in the physical world, and if the physical world is too harsh for you, don't even bother dealing with demons. Demons don't give a fuck. Like, you can't tell it. Like, you can't call whatever the demon has been bullying me. Like, you get what I mean? You can do that in the modern world where everybody's so about like their emotions and feelings and all that stuff. How could you say that? Don't say that. It's
He offended me.
that's it's a different world, and yeah. So what I'm saying is, um, people have a wrong interpretation of spirituality because now they feel finally have this new family that understands me. Finally, have these people who can like relate. They can really, really relate, even though people are just dealing with their own psychosis or their own neuroses. It's an individual path first and foremost. You can definitely have people that help you on the path, but you got to do the work yourself. Because when you close your eyes and when you will confront your end, you're gonna have to do that by yourself as well. And real spirituality is really about preparing for death and what's coming after. And that's one of the most terrifying things you can ever. Then, you and I are different. I know, Robin, but a lot of people are literally terrified to be alone. They can't deal with themselves. You see, and yeah, they're once again they're falling for another trap. It's just another trap. Just like the marriage was a trap, or they thought that this person, like the person, they project all of their hopes and dreams on one individual. Impossible. Like, how's that going to work? That's another human being. They have flaws. You have flaws. So they project that on that, or they project it on their children, or they project it on this job, this career. Oh, I'm going to accomplish this, and then I'm going to have everything. This world has no fulfillment here. This world is about testing your power. That's really what it is. And then eventually you're going to leave. But yeah, people are falling for another trap. Now they think the physical world is so harsh, I don't want to be there. And then they have to realize sooner or later that the spiritual world is the same, or they just keep bullshitting themselves and kissing each other's asses or whatever the fuck they do. I don't know. But yeah, they're just full of shit.
Yeah, there's a quote that comes to mind when you're talking about that. And if you fight for your limitations, you get to keep them. Your excuses, just like settling in mediocrity. And I just, so many people are they're comfortable. They're comfortably uncomfortable. And I think sometimes like comfort will kill you, because the most beauty and growth and satisfaction in my life has come from myself putting myself through things that were really scary, but I could believe and trust in something bigger for me. If it's like playing poker with energy, trusting in yourself. I think people have really, really disconnected from that. And that's a huge reason why I want to like teach people psychic abilities, because it's kind of getting in tune with how you receive information and operate in this world. And if you can learn how you're operating in this life, then you have a fighting chance to figure out what the fuck you want in this life. My psychic abilities really open up so much more than just, what people are like, oh, you can see the future, you can read these things. Yeah, that stuff is cool. But what was really cool was being able to, shuffle through my clairs to find out what I needed to do for myself, to learn who was around me, to learn, is this a good opportunity for me? Should I trust this opportunity? Is this good? What could be coming? There's so many ways you could do that, even just going down to like a gut feeling. Like if people could just trust that. So many people are walking around like thinking like, oh, that was just a coincidence. Oh, I had a feeling. And I'm like, you had a feeling. You knew. You knew, but you just, you pretty much, yeah, disassociated from yourself. You betrayed yourself, and you wonder why you're discontent in life. But life will just keep smacking you upside the head with a cosmic 2x4 the more you just don't listen to what it is. And some people have to learn that way, and like I did for a good amount of time, until I finally was like, I know what that feeling means. The more you actually trust it, the stronger the feeling becomes, because you can actually learn how to pay attention to it. It amplifies. It's kind of like Reiki, or learning how like your chakras feel. You don't realize energy is tangible. You don't even realize you have these like energy centers in your body. But if you go into meditation, you can spin it, you can like feel it, and you're like, how have I never felt this before? The more you do it, the more sensitive you become. I know for myself, like when my third eye started tingling, it felt like static electricity. And it was the weirdest feeling. And I'm like, has this been happening my whole life? Like I've been this like dulled out. And I think a huge part of manifestation is just like reversing the hypnosis. That is like really what makes you magnetic, in my experience. And I had a question, when it comes to like using magic, because you're talking about, working with demons, and that can be quite dangerous for most people. And I'm wondering, like, somebody who's listening to this might be like, oh, that's so exciting, I'm gonna go like pick up a book, the Lesser Keys of Solomon, and like do some fucky shit. Like what can happen with people? Like how would somebody even, like, if they're curious, how would they like prepare themselves for that? Or like what advice would you give? What are like the consequences of fucking with things, before you're ready? And how would you even know you're ready?
Yeah, that's a good point. How do you know you're ready? I can't really give you that answer because there it's really hard to tell. It's to an extent it's the person's own decision and volition that makes them ready for it, right? However, you're right, there are dangers, the real dangers. It's not a game. Magic is not fun. You shouldn't just use the conjurations to see if like, even if you just use the conjurations out of a grimoire and you just speak them to like try to pronounce them, something's going to happen. So you're calling those energies, right? So it's not a game, and there are real dangers to it, especially if you don't follow the instructions and you don't follow the structure of the ritual. Yeah, there could be real damage, because think about it, if you're calling a spirit from the other world here, it's not comfortable for the demon. It's like you being pulled underwater and forcefully being kept there until the end of the ritual. So they're not here voluntarily, and they're gonna well, if you make mistakes, they're gonna take revenge on you. Also, there a lot magic is very angular, for instance. Okay, so if you call a demon and you don't know what direction to face, that's a really that's a strong offense. Plus, there are so many different little details that you have to remember, but at the end of the day, there are structured rituals they can follow that make sure that you do everything right. Plus, you have to call the demon at the right time of the day. You have to call it at the right day, because they're connected to different planetary energies. You have to use the right incense. You have to use the right implement. There are many steps and details that have to be taken into consideration there. But you will have some crazy experience when you call them. Yeah? And they can do miraculous things for you. Let me give you just one example. Years back, my girlfriend was in college, right? And it was impossible for her to pass a test, right? Told me, and we did a ritual together, and we evoked a Mercury demon, right? And the the request was make her pass that test, please, or make sure that she passes that test. Um, Good. I mean, he requested a certain payment, and then she went out to have that test, right? And she came back and told me, like, no fucking way. There's literally no way that I've passed. I answered like 2 questions. I mean, those questions were wrong, right? And then, or those answers were wrong. And then a couple days later, she received an email that said that the system had crashed, the computer system had crashed, and they were working on restoring it, right? And when everything had been restored, she came out on top, I don't know, top 3% of everything. So the results had been changed in one way or another, right? So this is one example. I could give you many, 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 many other examples of what you can use demons for. I at least once a week I'm doing a new occasion like that to make things happen in my life, right? But you got to follow the structure. You got to follow the correct sequence of things, and then it's okay. You're not going to have that many problems. Also, you have to know what they are afraid of, because it's not like they're all powerful. Definitely not. They're very, very powerful, but not all powerful. And when you know how to get them under your control, you can literally make them weep if they don't follow you, if they don't follow your commands. You know. But once again, that's something that most people wouldn't even have the balls to call a demon, right? And then telling the demon, listen, I cut your sigil or I burn it if you don't do what I'm telling you to do, or you hear it's not just the voice. Not a lot of people are able to hear spirits because they're not that psychic, right? But they can throw shit around in your room. Right? How many people would stay calm? I mean, nowadays it's become, or like for the last couple of years, it's become a real, like, everybody thinks it's cool to call demons. There are a lot of people out there. Listen, a lot of those guys that have such big mouths, you would piss your pants. You would fucking piss your pants. If a real demon manifested in your house, you would see that body swirling around in the room, and then you feel the anger, and they throw shit around. I would want to see how many tough people are still would still stay calm and be able to stay in control of the situation. Not many, guaranteed.
Yeah, I think making demons cry is a Frank White thing.
And weep, make them weep. I mean, only if they deserve it. Only if they deserve it.
Yeah, there's got to be so many dangers. I just think, people think of demons, and the first thing that comes to mind is like the movie The Exorcist. That case of possession, and it can be like really scary because you have this idea of what they are and how sinister they can be, and they can be, because would possession not be one of the consequences with somebody, like if they're messing with this stuff? I mean, it happens even when you're talking about people with their phone apps. Like, I had a friend message me, and she's got this app on her phone, and it's one of those, like, it's not a Ouija board, but it's like one of those, like the ghost can like talk into it and it'll translate it. And it was in her house, and it's like saying it's a demon. I was like, well, shut that thing off, right? Like, why are you communicating with it in the first place? She's like, well, because weird stuff was happening. I'm like, all right, like, first things first, like, just stop what you're doing, stop giving it attention. It probably isn't even what it says it is, because a lot of spirits just want to scare you. But yeah, I'm just curious, like, what would make somebody like really weak in these cases? Like, okay, maybe they fuck up the ritual, or what if they get the ritual right, but they're really weak-minded? You are muted.
Well, part of the rituals, you bind them. Well, first of all, there are different steps to the ritual. One of them is a ligatio, which is essentially a contractual agreement in which you agree what the demon's going to do for you, right? And part of that agreement, if you're smart, is also a couple of sentences that prevent them from going against you. So you basically you tell it to do this and that and the other, make it happen in a way that doesn't hurt me or my loved ones in any way, shape, or form. Boom. And then you prevent bad things from happening. Now, if you don't say that intentionally, probably because demons aren't nice, right? Intentionally, they're gonna make it happen in a way that basically harms you, if that makes sense, or make it happen in a way that you didn't intend it to happen. That's this classical example of, I did a money spell and my grandmother died and I inherited the money. You see what I mean? So things like that. You see, so you got to be careful, of course. It's not for idiots, And it's funny, it's interesting that a lot of the ceremonial magicians of the past, they were actually they had a lot of education as lawyers, in law, and it's kind of a funny coincidence if you think of it, right? But yes, the point is you have to negotiate with the spirit. You have to tell them this is what I want, and be clear. Make it happen in a way that is most beneficial to me in all the areas of my life, and make sure that nobody that I care about is hurt in the process. Yeah. So you got to cover your ass.
Yeah. And then I'm curious too. So like what's the difference between like invoking a demon through ritual and making a pact with a demon? Because you hear about that in Hollywood a lot. I mean, that's what yeah, like QAnon and stuff like that. Like they're always freaking out about these types of things. They sold their soul to the devil. Like what's that all about?
Yeah, QAnon is bullshit. That's a load of crap.
Psyop.
Well, a pact is mainly a working relationship with a spirit that allows you to gain its power and I mean, the natural progression of working with a spirit is usually you call it and have it work on your behalf. But subconsciously, what you're learning to do is you're learning to control those forces, because it takes a huge psychological leap to begin to control a demon. Think about it, right? Yeah, there must be something that changes within you once you command a demon. No, and that by the way, that translates into many other areas of your life. You will be, I mean, you will be more authoritative in normal life, right? Like, how are you going to be intimidated by some guy when you, like, last night I evoked a demon,
Yeah.
So the point is this natural magic is about power. Once again, it's about increasing your power, right? So when you call a spirit, in the first step, you're taking charge of that energy, but it's still externalized. Through an invocation, you can begin to, but in the right setup, right? You can begin to learn about that power from the spirit from within. But it takes a lot of spiritual awareness and power to process all of that, right? And then in a pact, you would make a pact not necessarily to attain certain things. You would do the pact in order to attain the power of the spirit itself. How do I master this specific subject? And similar to a mentor that you would hang out with that can teach you about something. And if you're with a mentor, very few of the instructions are, this is what you do this and that and the other. No, you just follow around that person and you learn through osmosis, right? You're around that person and you just learn by observing the person. That's the most natural way to learn, by the way. And when you're energetically surrounded by a force like that through a pact, you will soak up that stuff, and your subconscious is going to transform to match that power and to master it. Okay, so that's basically what a pact is for, in my understanding. I mean, there might be people that sell their soul to the devil for this and that, for fame, blah blah blah, all that shit. That's stupid in my opinion. Why? Because your soul cannot be sold. That's retarded. Your soul is you can hypnotize yourself into the idea that you're owned by another being, but you cannot. Your spirit can never be owned by anyone or anything.
Yeah. Are there any consequences to working with like deities or angels?
Well, I think first of all, we have to understand that angels are not the creatures that are commonly, most people think of angels as these pure, beautiful, and nice creatures all the time. First of all, no, they just vibrate very, very highly. But if you read the Bible, have you ever read the Bible?
I haven't actually.
I read the Bible. Well, let me tell you, whenever there's an angel that shows up, it's because he's about to commit genocide or destroy a city or cull the population because God told him so. Okay, so angels are not these nice little creatures that sit on clouds and are just nice. That's not what angels are. Angels are, they vibrate very, very highly, and they have a very, very high spiritual perspective. You know, but your highest good could coincide with a temporary catastrophe in your life. Does that make sense? Once again, coming back to you, I don't want to go too, and I don't want to make it too personal here, but looking back, you would probably say that your accident was for your highest good.
Yeah, oh, I believe wholeheartedly it was spirits that orchestrated it for me. And it was for me because it was my initiation onto the path.
There you go. So working with an angel, strangely, could, lead to something like this. 2 years of pain. So it's not like spirituality is not sunshine and rainbows. Angels are not sunshine. This is an infantile view of the world. It's everything has consequences. We're adults. We have to understand that every upside has a downside. Where there's light, there's shadow, there's darkness. So everything has positives and negatives. So the consequences, I would say, are you will have to learn. You will have to learn your lessons as well. I mean, when you call an angel and you call that angel to teach you something, it will teach you that in whatever way the angel sees fit. And once again, they're not harmless little creatures. You see, I mean, what's funny? I mean, people in the spiritual community always talk about, like, they talk about aliens, right? They talk about spirits, they talk about everything, but at the same time, they pretend that everything in the spiritual universe revolves around us. So they couldn't fathom that a demon or an angel could see us like an ant. You see? And do you cry when an ant died? Well, you might have, actually. You might probably. I mean, knowing you might probably.
I don't want to step on them. I'll pick up the worm, put it on the sidewalk, be like, "Oh, get in the grass, little guy."
You might even feel sorry for the spider, right?
I don't kill them.
Yeah, there you go.
Most of the time.
I won't think about that twice. You see what I mean? So the point is, the angel's perception of humans. I mean, it depends on what angel you're working with, obviously, right? Or what demon. But most spirits don't see us like these special creatures, if that makes sense. Okay, we're part of the spiritual universe, absolutely. But a spider is also part of the spiritual universe, an extension. You see. So we need to get rid of this anthropocentric projection, which is essentially we try to put our own values onto the universe. We talked about that on our last call, right? The universe doesn't work like that way. We have to find our place, and we have to be grateful for every new challenge that we survive, because now we grew, and that's really it. That's all we can hope for. The next challenge that makes us grow stronger and better. And the world's not going to get better. The world's not going to be safe. The world's not going to go into this collective enlightenment. The only thing that can happen is that we get stronger. And that's all we should ask for. Nothing else. The world's not going to change for you. We're on this planet for 80 years. How long? I don't know. For a very short amount of time. And the world's not going to change for us. The only thing we can do is go stronger and use this as a and a demon or an angel, whatever. These are, people don't even know what the fuck they're talking about. These are cosmic forces. They've been here since the beginning of existence. Like they're older than gravity. Like, what the fuck are they going to care? Do you think they're going to care about your marriage? You think they're going to care about your problems at work? Like, this is so retarded. Seriously, like, it's ridiculous if you think about it, right? No, I mean, and this is what people need to understand. It's we're just not that big of a deal. Maybe not.
Burst in bubbles with Frank White. Oh, so I have a question when it comes to this path. Do you choose the path of sorcery, or does it choose you?
So question. So good question. Well, do you choose the path of sorcery? Does the path choose you? Oh man. Huh. Oh man. Let me give me a second. I gotta answer that question like this. At one point, I have to make a choice of what I believe in. It's not necessarily there's not necessarily evidence that I could give you to what I'm about to say. However, what I believe is that at one point, everybody made a decision about who they want to be and who they are. Right? Because let me give you an example. Have you ever had have you ever experienced an employee or something like that, or a person that was useless in one situation or one circumstance, and then you put them into different circumstances, and all of a sudden they became like the top, like they became the best and super useful and all that stuff, right? So I do believe that we're all born with inherent talents, and I also believe that we're all born with inherent weaknesses. Okay, don't try to get me to paint or don't try to get me to do any like most artistic things. I'm just shit at. Okay, the only thing that I can do is write. And now, did I choose to not be able to do that? No, I don't think so. I think that's natural talent. Um, However, at the same time, I think we can, to an extent, decide who we want to be. I mean, we can decide how we're going to react to a certain situation. We can determine our effort. We can determine many, many different things. However, I'm never going to be a ballet dancer, and I could have trained for 20 years to be a good ballet dancer. You would have kicked my, or most people, somebody who's naturally good at that would have kicked my ass in that with minimum training. And it turned out, for me personally, I was kicking asses in that field with minimal training, and then, of course, the training helped. So I guess I had natural talents for it. A lot of people have natural talents for it. Some people don't. They're as psychic as a rock. So I you have to have a certain psychological makeup. I don't think it's necessarily always visible in a birth chart, but I try to I try to not emphasize that aspect because this is an ego thing. It's an ego game because a lot of people try to feel special by pretending that they have been talking to spirits. And yeah, I had these experiences, that experience, this experience. Um, your skills speak for themselves, and generally speaking, I would say, like specifically, shamans are chosen. You cannot choose to become a shaman. It's very painful initiations, and I think to an extent the same with sorcery. I did not choose to have those spiritual experiences, because they were definitely not comfortable for the most part, you know. So I think right now I got to answer the question as you choose. You can't. You're not. Sorry, you're chosen. It's not that you choose. You're chosen. Was that a coherent answer? I got the feeling it was rambling.
No, it made perfect sense. And it was kind of what I was feeling because sorcery feels very close to shamanism in ways. What would you say like the main differences are? Because like we were saying, like with a shamanic awakening, the spirits choose you. They will, put you through like hell as part of the awakening. And some people die, from that initiation. They don't even make it past. But like the difference between, shamanism and sorcery, because it does feel like they're very close in so many ways.
Well, shamans have the job to be the connection between the other world and this world. Okay, so they're essentially ambassadors or translators of between the gods and the spirits and men and women. He, she, it's whatever, right? So you're supposed to translate the messages, and you're the connection. Now that entails a lot of things where naturally those people kind of like live on the edge of society. They're never fully part of society. They also don't feel like they're part of society. Their nature is to be kind of like on the edge. They have a very special role to play, but at the same time, they can never be fully part of humans because they have this other connection, this otherworldly quality. Now, this is where the divine rule to this is where the divine right to rule comes from. Every court, every kingdom, every king, every emperor must have or had a shaman or sorcerer, whatever you want to call that, as a connection, as the one that could tell him what to do next, as the one that could see into the future and could advise him on, read the omens essentially. Is it wise to start this war and that war? You see. So yeah, I think they're similar in their roles, because the sorcerer will do the same thing. However, sorcerers are how do I put it? They're similar in a lot of ways, but the techniques that they work with are different. I mean, shamans in the purest sense, a shaman works in the three realms. There are three worlds: the upper world, the middle world, the lower world. And shamans work a lot with power animals, and they usually have one spirit that is always with them, always teaches them. The sorcerer is rather different. A sorcerer is also concerned with the otherworldly things, but he's more like self-centered, if that makes sense. It's more about the personal ascension of this person, whereas the shaman serves the purpose of educating and protecting the community. I would say that's the main difference.
Okay, that makes sense. And then even going into like,
I also add this, by the way, like most people that are naturally magical, if that makes sense, they feel like that anyways. They don't feel like they're part of society. They always feel like kind of on the edge of society, not on the edge in terms of like, being mad or something like that. It's more like they just don't feel at home among humans, and it almost feels like they would feel more of a connection and a kinship with supernatural beings or invisible beings than with humans. So if anyone here asks themselves, am I spiritually, am I naturally this and that and the other, check yourself. Do you enjoy large parties, and do you like to be in clubs and that's your favorite environment where everybody's just going crazy, or do you enjoy your time by yourself and just listening to the universe? What would be more pleasurable to you? Ask yourself that question.
yeah, I would say like the amount of love I felt in my life when the spirit realm kind of just revealed themselves in my life, that's when I finally started feeling at home, and now it's like every single day I have that communication. I always speak. I just say whatever I'm thinking honestly from my heart, and just I speak it, and I can feel the change in atmosphere as soon as I want to connect. And that's been like the most beautiful feeling. And it's taught me like trust, because, in society, just people can be very two-faced. It can be quite a rough place to be at times. And I found that to be something really interesting. My trust in my path and in this life has come from my connection with the spirit realm and the animals as well. And it's just like in nature and the way it all, works together in harmony. When you see those beautiful patterns, it makes it so much less lonely. Every day you wake up and you're like, you could read the day as like your divination. And I think that's really cool when you can really become that connected to what's around us without, people are trying to find connection in all kinds of crazy ways. Like, what is it, anti-social media? Like, I mean, it's good for things in a way, but people are becoming more and more isolated. They're surfing the web when they don't realize they could go, tune into the infinite realm of creativity and surf that and receive answers, and just so much connection. It's really bizarre. It's kind of like a mockery of human psychic abilities in a sense, when people are lost in the black mirror that is their phone. They're gone, they're under hypnosis. It's like, how could somebody be on their phone for 2 hours and not notice?
That's exactly what it is. It's a form
Yeah,
that vampirizes the energy, the psychic energy.
yeah. So it's just wild to me now, like becoming more acquainted with my own abilities and we'll call it our imagination and connection and things like that, how much fun it can be. Like I would much rather go on a meditation journey with the spirits and learn things than watch TV. Like I have a really hard time watching TV. Although I do make myself do it just so I ground myself. I'll like try to pick something to like binge watch here and there and obviously like be part of this world, but it is really beautiful and entertaining and yeah, kind of blissful in a way. It's really it's
I
nice.
think what people have forgotten is to be basically see what all those characters that we admire, uh, let's say on TV or those superhero movies and all that stuff, right? We admire them because we deep down we aspire to be like them. And I think at one point people's confidence and self belief are just broken at a certain point where they don't believe that they could be that. You know, like I'm not fully that guy, but I to a large extent am really that guy that I wanted to be when I was a kid. Come on, man. Like I'm a pretty cool guy. I'm telling you. Seriously, I'm really proud of myself. And my life is set up almost perfectly the way I wanted it to be. So I can do whatever the fuck I want. Nobody has any authority over me, and my life is an adventure. I think that's it. You know, life needs to be an adventure, right? And sadly, most people don't have that. And it's not, nothing is stopping them but their own mental shackles. They're under hypnosis, and they don't know how to get free. They don't know how to liberate their own minds. Everybody can do this. Everybody can have that life that you wanted. And one of the most annoying things to me is to deal with people that are just fucking normal. Normal in a sense where I can't say that. I can't wear that. I can't do this and that and the other because I can't go to work like that. My boss is not going to like that. Or I can't say that. I can't even they censor themselves if they don't entertain it, eventually it doesn't exist in their universe anymore. People are so fucking lame. I live in a society of fucking normies that are just fucking doing the same fucking thing. They're like a bunch of fucking slaves, minions. They do the same fucking thing from Monday to, and you can feel it in the air, right? They get nervous on Sunday night. They get nervous because the new week is starting, right? You can feel it, like the atmosphere. It's so fucking annoying to me, right? And on Friday, they all go fucking get drunk, and you know the whole week they're slave away, and just they miss it out. They miss completely what's going on in life. So that's the most annoying thing for me, living in a society like that where everybody's just fucking normal and doing a stupid ass bullshit. When in reality they could change it very, very easily. It's all like here. It's all here, you know. And yeah, that's one of the most annoying things to me because
Yeah.
I live an adventure every single day. You know how you start your first adventure? Just cast a spell on a certain person. Start your day with casting a spell, and then all of a sudden everything becomes exciting. Hell,
That is true.
cast a spell on your boss and see what happens. Yeah, cast a spell on your boss, see what happens. Cast a spell on your coworker, right? Are you going to keep looking at her from afar, or are you actually going to get her? Put a love spell on her. Who gives a shit? There's no thought police yet. You know, you can do it. So turn your life into an adventure. That's what it is. That's really how it starts. You know, reality is very malleable. It doesn't have to be like I get up in the morning, I do my usual shit, go to work, bullshit that I don't believe in, drive home, commute, and then dinner, and then you know sex once a week or something like that. You know, that's not how it has to be.
Yeah. I think people are just so afraid because of so much programming they've had. You know, that's evil, that's bad, we shouldn't do that. That's not nice. So when people are able to break through that, and I guess like the entry point is just manifestation too. You know, when people are like, they make a vision board and that shit starts actually manifesting and they're like, huh, well, that's interesting. You know, that for me was when things got really exciting, just realizing that you actually could pull in things and it was like crazy. You know, I remember my family for a bit, like I wanted to like win free shit. And it's like, I won every contest for a long time. They're like, what the fuck are you doing? It was so exciting all the time because all this stuff would come through. Or I told you this privately, but I wanted to win or not win, but get the login to like a $10,000 course. So I drew a picture of it, put on my board. 6 months later, somebody's like, "Oh, I have the login. Do you want it, Robin?" It was interesting. And then by the time I got it, I was like, I didn't even want it. But it is interesting too with like the be careful what you wish for. Because I remember doing my own love spell a while ago. It was like a couple of years ago. And I wanted somebody to be closer to me. But what ended up happening was I like 2 days later, I ended up in the most pain I've like ever been in. It was awful. I had to go to the hospital because I was in a lot of pain. And the person I wanted to be close to me came with me, and they witnessed all the medical procedures that I had gone through because they hadn't really seen it. And then they're like, "I'm so sorry. I never like took this seriously or believed in you." And it actually made us way closer. And it was weird because there was really like no explanation for the amount of pain I was in. But it happened, and I was like, shit, I got what I wanted. But it scared me off of magic, or for a while, because I wanted to be more intentional. And mind you, that maybe I'll say that was manifesting, because that was a candle. I didn't really do any invocation with spirit, but yeah, I guess some things like to come through the path of least resistance. So that that was interesting. And for anybody who's listening, when Frank is talking about, the adventure, a really great book that talks about this is The Alchemist. And it's like a really famous book, but it's all about going on that adventure and following the omens. And everybody needs to have their own adventure in life. Like don't give up on it. Like, what is it that excites you? What is your passion? Like a huge aha moment for me was when I would do this exercise, and it's, if I could do anything, have anything, give anything, be anything, or create anything, time, money, restrictions, if people, none of it mattered, what would that actually look like? Taking the time to be like, breaking through what you think you can have and exploring what's actually possible. Because so many people have these little ideas of like, well, wouldn't that be cool? But little do they realize, when they laugh at that thought, that's actually like possibility knocking at their door, and they're saying no because they just don't believe in it. So going through that process of developing that vision, I remember, I like laughed at myself when I first put down I wanted to write a book. Well, I actually started that document today. I got the name of the book, and I'm ready. I thought it would happen like 10 years from now, but it's happening now. So I'm going to start creating that and taking the steps. And having a healthy body, that was something I didn't think was possible for me. The doctors were like, you're going to be like this for life. You're going to be on a lot of medication. You're disabled.
Doctors usually, they just have no. And you know why that is? Actually, they got to cover their asses, because they, even if you have like tiny symptoms, they got to prepare you for the worst in order to cover their asses. Because it's basically like this: if they don't prepare you for the worst, or give you the worst possible like diagnosis, you could actually sue them for not giving you the real deal, and they're covering their asses. But usually doctors, they're giving you these horror scenarios, because they don't believe in them themselves. They just got to give you the worst to cover themselves.
Yeah, and that's so sad, because once you give somebody a label or a diagnosis, well, then you've mentally poisoned them. They take that on. That is their belief now. Now try to break that belief, from somebody. Try to get them to detach from it. Like, what I started doing was like, instead of saying, "Hey, I'm Robin, I have fibromyalgia," it's like, yeah, I'm Robin. I was diagnosed with this, but I don't associate it with it. I didn't wake up in the morning thinking like, oh, poor me. I'm like, how does somebody who's healthy think? Because it's just a process of reprogramming your brain. And I listened to subliminals of like, I am healthy. I'm healthy. I wrote it down. And then, I put in the footwork. I put all of my time and my energy into finding a way to get better. I explored everything. And because of my relentless pursuit to have a better life and claim better for myself, I'm a hell of a lot better now. And I'm able to do things I didn't think were possible. And that's a huge triumph.
Yeah, and
Um,
I also want to say something, which is basically, I know this is a podcast on sorcery, right? But everything that we do has in one way or another to do with the mind, right? And the problem is also that we have very little education on the mind itself and how it functions and how it works. See, because um, the only thing that we need in order to create what it is that we want, we have to stay on the frequency and the reality. It's a multiverse, right? And we have to stay in touch with the reality that we want to experience. And as we are continuously and consistently on that frequency, it's a natural law. It cannot be withheld from us. But the problem is what's in the way often is the mind with its fuck ups, with its memories, with its traumas. And I think people need to learn a little bit more about how the mind actually works, and more than that, how to release the trauma that's there. Because you have two choices in every situation. You either act based on your fears, or you act based on what you actually believe in. Now, obviously, I'm not telling people to turn into children again, because yeah, we're not 5 years old and don't live in a world of fairy tales, right? But the problem is that the mind works binary, or it works in a way where memory and storage of memory works through association. So bad things are stored next to positive things. So what happens when most people write down their goals and their vision for the future is they usually get very, very tired, or they get agitated, or they can't sit down because it doesn't feel comfortable. Why? Because as soon as you think about something positive, the negative is subconsciously triggered as well. So as you think about your goals in the future, you think about automatically the energy of your failures is triggered, and that robs you of your energy. That's why people get tired either when they think about those things, or they get confused or something like that. So you have to avoid those mechanisms in one way or another. One of them would be, when it comes to finding your purpose, for instance, we can assume that, this is a technique in logic, which is inversion, right? You just invert it, which is basically, I assume that when I'm in alignment with my purpose, I feel happy, I feel energized, and I feel blissful and powerful, right? Now, I just got to pay attention to the things in my life that make me feel the opposite. When do I feel pissed off? When do I feel weak? When do I feel frustrated? And I formulate the complete opposite of that. That is now a direction into my purpose. Let's assume your purpose was you're Ontario, right?
yeah.
Let's assume I'm in Germany. Yeah, let's assume your purpose would be hidden somewhere in my kitchen on the right corner, right? Now, how do you know where that is? You need a compass. You need a direction, right? And this would be your direction now. So I don't want this. So I know that the opposite of it is what I want. So for me, for instance, what would be on my hate list would be, I hate saying the same things over and over and over and over again. And I hate working with people that are small-minded. So the opposite of that would be, I only want to work with people who have a great vision and are open-minded, and I want to learn new things every day, right? And then I would try to move my life into that direction through automizing things, through outsourcing things in one way or another, and step by step, without having clearly defined where the purpose is, because I don't know that it's in my kitchen, right? Or you don't know that it's in my kitchen. You now have a direction at least, and then you move into that direction, and then step by step, your purpose is going to be clarified. And that's the only way to get to it, because if you start thinking about what it is that you want, automatically all those disappointments from the past, even the shit when you were like 5 years old and you didn't get that lollipop, that shit is going to be triggered in your subconscious. Disappointment. This world is set up in a way where we have way more disappointments than successes, right? So we have to also learn how to deal with our own minds. Just brutally forcing yourself through things is not always the best result. And look, I talk like that myself. I tell people they're bitches and they're like weak, and but why don't you do this and that and the other? Understanding that it's not that simple. Okay, so there's definitely more to that. There's definitely more to mastering the mind and making things happen. But it has to be understood that it's gonna be an effort. But look, that's part of the adventure. You explore yourself, and the creation in the outside world is really the result of exploring yourself, man. I'm looking forward to reading your book or seeing it, because that's going to be a process. That's going to be incredible learning experience for you, I'm sure.
Yeah, it's going to be really healing. I'm really excited. The name came to me recently, so I'm like, cool, full steam ahead, ready to go. Um, if there's anything I've learned from my journey, it's creating in chaos is where the clarity comes. You just got to say fuck it sometimes and just do it, ready or not. A lot of my best teachings have come from my failures and from trying things and realizing it doesn't work, going through, different phases and, different hobbies. Like before I started, doing readings and stuff, like all I knew is I wanted to be an entrepreneur. That's it. I just knew that. I'm like, oh, maybe I'll do wood burning. I did that for a while. I created art, and I'm like, well, maybe I'm going to refinish furniture. So I did that. And I went through these different things to find what I wanted. And it kind of just took like trial and error and exploring and being, willing to play, willing to go on an adventure, follow the feeling. You don't know where it's going to take you. It's not going to be the final product when you start. You have to move there incrementally and work your way there. And I value all the experiences I've had because every little thing I did kind of weaved itself into what I will be doing. And I thought that was really cool. Like they were all valuable skills. Um, I'm, bartending right now, which is really cool. Like it's cool for me in a way because it's teaching me how to, show up in the world differently. I communicate with people differently. I have to tell people off all the time. And that's been like a great skill for moving into like a more influential role in my life. I have to have firm boundaries with people. I have to take no shit. I have to be able to think quick, stuff like that. I see it all as valuable. I see it as important. I see it all as a building block. So never like beat yourself up for where you are, because you start somewhere and you move from there and you make decisions every single day in the direction that you want to go. And it doesn't have to be big. It can be tiny little micro movements, just little steps, and you'll get there. And if you ever feel like you can't, or you have all these like crazy thoughts in your head as to why you can't, I like to just say them out loud and laugh at myself. Or I write it all down like, oh, these are all my fucked up money thoughts. This is all the reasons I can't. Put it somewhere. Give it a place to like be. And when I was actually able to look at all the shit that was in my mind, it's like, wow, that was what was between me and, the belief that I can have something and I'm worthy of it. And, little practical things like that can make a huge difference in your life. That's it's really grounding to do that kind of work. And yeah, little bits over time. I mean, you're not going to do it once and just be like cured of your uh, negative thoughts or limiting beliefs, but you do it when it comes up, and you just keep trying, keep going.
Yeah, totally. I believe that's a never-ending project for sure. I mean, the universe makes it much easier to create disorder and to create chaos and to create negative things than it is to create positive things. By the way, also for everybody who's interested in doing curses, believe me, doing destructive magic is much easier than it is to do constructive magic. But for good things to happen and for creation, we need to create order in the mind first, and that requires effort and will consistently require effort. It's just like your house. Don't take care of your house for a year, see if it gets better. There's nothing in the universe that gets better without taking care of it. Same with your body and the same with your mind. So it's a daily practice. It's not a one-time deal. It's not, oh, I did a month of therapy and it's over. No. Like it's a constant thing. It's like you brush your teeth, you have to take care of your nervous system and your mind. Absolutely. I mean, some
Yeah.
people don't take showers. I get it, but I mean, if you're interested in any, and it's just as important. Definitely more important. I mean, just as important. I mean,
Yeah.
I know a lot of women who are very pretty with a lot of makeup, and they're very, very ugly on the inside, for sure. So
Yeah. Yeah. It's all about like what's in here and what's in here.
really.
Um, yeah. And looks fade. Um, I definitely, it's interesting going on this path, because then you kind of you learn what you want to see in someone. And I think the most attractive quality about somebody is, do they have a vision? You know, what are they, what do they want in this life? What are they trying to create? Because I want to know that they're going through that growth process, because like the path of entrepreneurship as well, like you're really going to meet all parts of yourself. You're going to meet your excuses, you're going to meet your fear, you're going to meet it all. And coming face to face with that has been, you know, it like shook me, because then I was like, wow, like I have so much work to do. I have to really get my shit together. I have to put my money where my mouth is to like make this dream happen. Wow, I have to give up a lot of shit I don't want to, you know, and through going through that, you realize like there's a give and a take. When you want something new in your life, you have to give up something. And when you actually start seeing like the results of that trade-off, that's when magic really happens, you know? Like, I mean, you can, like, I see magic as, yes, what you said in sorcery and working with the spirits, but I also see it as like, you know, when I pray and I follow through with what I say I'm going to do, like that like I'll call it like magic. It's like a poetic harmony, the way like that things show up in your life. Like it's beyond what a human can even think of or organize. Like there's such an element of surrender when you're working with these different beings, known or unknown even, and you know, allowing that to come into your life, and the absolute joy of seeing, you know, how things manifest, because people just couldn't think of it. You know, you realize how small you are when you're working with magic. And you know, there's just that acknowledgement for myself, like there's so many things that I thought I wanted, but I'm so glad they didn't come in that way, because what my surrender made room for in my life was like just miracles through that element of surprise. Like there's that dance with like creating spells and controlling the outcome, and then also leaving room for what we don't know that we need, in my opinion, because it's like that. It's a beautiful dance. And yeah, I'm like always on the edge of my seat. I feel like life is like a roller coaster at times, and this path, all of it together, you know, the grounded work when it comes to business, like this dedication to sitting down on, you know, my meditation pillow and just like making it happen, and just being able to like design your life. And you said this, like designing your personality, realizing, wow, I'm not feeling strong in this one area. For myself, after the accident, memory was very difficult for me, organizing my thoughts. I had a bad concussion. So bringing in energies to help with like that mental clarity, be like, okay, I'm building up my personality. Instead of seeking, you know, in other people to build that up in myself, I started learning how to be self-sourced. And,
I
you
would have
know,
noticed if you hadn't tell me that, I would have never noticed. You're completely like recovered. Respect. I mean, really.
it was really bad for like the first year. I was like the girl from 50 First Dates, that Adam Sandler movie. I couldn't remember like fuck all. I tried. I would just repeat and repeat. If I tried to read a paragraph, I would forget it. I would watch a video. I remember like I was in a mentorship at that time, and she would have these like videos for us to watch, and I would like watch it, and then I would come back and watch it again like an hour later, not realizing I just watched it. And I might get like to the end of the video, I'm like, oh, I just I watched this. So like I'd have like a little blip of memory, and I'm like, oh my God, this is so bad. I couldn't form proper sentences half the time, or like pay attention to what people were saying. So I'm really proud of where I'm at now. But it was like a body, mind, spirit approach to recover my memory. I use like supplements like lion's mane, like good food, really balancing out with like the right physical stuff. That's a huge, you know, component of healing. People, you know, sometimes they go too far into one direction, but it's a balance. serving, bartending. It's actually been phenomenal for my memory. It's helped me like use it in a new way. Yeah, it was really, really bad. But now I'm like, I see a face. I know what they drink. I know their name. I couldn't do that when I first started. I was so intimidated by it, but you force yourself to be uncomfortable, and be okay with embarrassing yourself. Like, because it's like you're gonna fuck up and fail when you're trying to change something. You're trying to create a new, pathway in your brain or a new way of being. It takes time, it takes practice. But now, like this conversation, I was pretty fluid through the whole thing. I didn't forget what I was saying. That's like huge. That's a huge accomplishment for me, because there was a point in my life where, there was huge fear and even like hopelessness that went with that. So the power of manifestation, magic, invocations, even, talking to, like the spirit, I guess you could say, of like Mercury or like Jupiter. I'm, really working towards becoming financially independent, making really good money. It's important to me. Even just that safety you feel from that invocation. Be like, wow, like I'm going to put in the work and I know that's going to be matched by the spirit that's going to help me. You're building your own confidence. And that's really cool too. Just having something that makes you believe in what you're doing a little bit more. Like that's a sense of safety.
That's really impressive. Yeah. Well, I've never had a concussion, but I have to meet a person like 10 times until I remember. I always remember faces, but for some reason, I must have decided at one point that names are not that important. I don't know why that is, but that's that's how my mind works. I get by. I just say, "Hi, what's up?" Yeah, hi, guy.
That works.
Just avoid names, So. Just yeah. Ain't that right, Jennifer?
It's really funny. Most people, when they mess up my name, they call me Jennifer. That's really funny you did that. Yeah. People always are like, you really look like a Jennifer. And I'm like, huh, that's weird. So that's funny you said that.
I found that people with similar names, and that's a theory of mine, right? I believe that name is destiny, and the name that you give your child is extremely important for their destiny. And I found that people with the same name, usually they take on similar traits for some reason or another. You look like this is what you said. You look like a Jennifer. You look like this and that. And it's really common, Like, if you look at Angelicas, they all look the same. They're like the same type. They're similar types, and their personality and their approach. It's really interesting.
What does your name mean?
Frank, it means it's like from the French Franks. Like there was a tribe in the fucking over there in France. That's where it comes from, I think. Frank. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Mine is Bright Fame. I thought that was cool.
Bright Fame?
Fame. Yes. And then even my last name, Peltier, fur trader. That was really funny.
Trader.
Fur trader.
Yeah. Fur trader. I see. Okay.
Yeah, it's funny to me. But it is interesting with our names. I was telling you privately, I was supposed to be named Brittany. So my name is Robin Brittany Lynn Peltier. But the morning of, or not in the morning, I guess the afternoon when I was born, they were about to like do the birth certificate, going to put Brittany down, and then a robin comes to the window in like a really bizarre way. It like comes and like perches on the hospital window, and they're like, that's really weird. So that's how I got the name Robin. So I thought it was really cool. Took a while to like that name though. I mean, I've gotten a Robin Hood Man in Tights, Robin in the Rain, Batman and Robin. Hated it for a while, but now I really love it. Grew into it.
I think you were 5 when that movie came out. Man in Thighs. Was that 93 or 95?
Robin Hood Man in Tights. I'm not sure. I don't know. I always think about like a Brave Sir Robin from Monty Python and the Holy Grail. One of my favorite movies. Yeah. Well, Frank, this has been an amazing chat as per usual. Is there anything that you wanted to like add to yeah, the topic of magic, sorcery, supernatural.
Magic, sorcery, and supernatural. I believe in. Well, to me, it's all about like, do you want to take charge or not? It might be a personality thing. Maybe some people enjoy just being controlled and being like, maybe it's easier to just like be like controlled by other circumstances. I know people who literally enjoy being like having their life controlled by other people. And if that's you, that's perfect. Okay, no problem. But if you have any sense um, of self determinism, that makes sense. I think you would do well looking deeper into magic because this is the power that you need in order to literally take control over your life. I mean, I think um, we are all born with an urge to grow and to become more, right? But it is drummed out of us, right? It starts with school and then other circumstances, and they're telling us to not think this. They're telling us this is not okay to think that, and it's all a control mechanism. And what's behind that? I mean, if you're afraid of it, there's no need to be afraid of the dark because I guarantee you that you're actually a good person. 99 or 97% of people are actually good people. There are just very few people who are actual psychopaths. Most people are actually good people, but they don't trust themselves. And in order, yeah, it's also a lot of people don't want power. A lot of people don't want money. A lot of people don't want control because they don't trust themselves with the decisions that they make. You have to step up. And yes, you make mistakes, but who gives a fuck? It doesn't matter. We're all learning, and empower yourself. That's what I mean. Empower yourself. I understand a lot of you have a lot of responsibilities. You have a lot of this and that and the other, but you're missing out on one of the best experiences there are if you're not exploring this. So I feel genuinely sad for you if you don't do this. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, a lot of people watch those fantasy movies because it's like, that's so cool. But I feel like from walking this path, my life has become its own like fantasy movie in so many ways. And when you get to like really experience that, you're like, there's really nothing better. Like, what a gift it is to be able to give somebody the keys to walking that path or unlocking the door to true magic. Um, so I have a question. So, okay, so they're intrigued, they're interested, they're inspired. What would you suggest somebody who's beginning? What would you suggest as like a beginning? Is there like a book that stood out or a practice? Where do you start?
How do you start with magic? How do you start with magic? You start with magic. Um, well, you need to have a meditation practice, and that's part of your life. Like if you go into magic, start meditation, and that's gonna be it forever. For the rest of your life, you're gonna meditate every single day, even when you're sick. You're gonna meditate. It's just gonna be part of it, because meditation allows you to be in touch with those energies. You have to increase your energy sensitivity. There are many different exercises that you can do for that. The problem is very few people have a structured approach to developing magical power. So, is there a book that takes you from completely beginner all the way up to learning how to use that? Um, well, most old grimoires, they assume that you already know magic, and they just give you the names of the spirits, and they literally say in the book, "Proceed as usual." You know, so they don't give you the techniques either. So there are many good books on how to develop psychic powers, but essentially you could they're generic. You could use this one or that one. It doesn't really matter. The problem is, um, the problem is the consistency and the focus and the consistent practice daily. And you got to want it more than you ever wanted something. You got to be obsessed with it. It's like, I don't know. it's like with everything that is. Imagine you're an athlete and you want to become a pro. The amount of effort that takes. It's complete focus. It's complete like dedication, and your body's going to hurt. You still go to train, and that's essentially what it is with magic too. You got to want it more than anything else, and then eventually the universe is going to give it to you. It's everything that is worthwhile. You have to fight for. You have to focus, and you have to suffer for it to an extent. And get ready to do that. If you're willing to suffer for years on end, you will become a magician. If not, I know a lot of people are psychic naturally, but it's about controlling those powers. You got to build that power up over years, But for me, it was always like, how to put it? Where did that dedication come from? I'm an obsessed individual, I'm an extremist in everything, literally. Like if I don't sleep, I don't sleep for days. If I either drink myself into oblivion or I don't drink at all. You see, so like I'm an obsessive person. I'm an extremist in everything that I do. So that helps. You just got to learn to be obsessed about things. All this life balance and work life, this and that. I don't believe in that. I believe in obsession, and that gives you extraordinary results. If you want to get something extraordinarily, or if you want to create something extraordinary, you have to put in extraordinary effort, and the same applies to magic. So you got to take it serious. That's what it means.
Yeah.
Information's out there. It's just the work ethic.
So much information out there, though. I think that's one of the things. It's like in the buffet of knowledge, you need to be intentional about what you're consuming. So one of the ways that I feel like I magnetized all of the right books and opportunities is I'm a big advocate for prayer. So I always would pray to the Creator, and my prayer was just show me the truth. And I wanted it. I wanted to know what the truth was. And that pursuit of the truth and having my reality shattered led me down the path. And yeah, you have to want it. You got to be ready for it when it comes to greet you.
I gotta give you a lot of respect though for what you went through and how well you recovered. I'm sure that's fucking hard. I'm sure that's incredibly hard. But yeah, you're doing well. You're thriving. So amazing.
Thank you, Frank. And I hope it inspires other people watching, because there's a lot of people out there that are dealing with, different, like say even like mental health issues or chronic body conditions. Like it's tough. We're living in a hard world right now, but there's so much help available out there, not just in what you can see, it's also in the unseen, and it can really help you design your life the way you want it. Excuses don't exist in magic. At least in what I've found. And anything is possible if you really believe it and you're willing to work for it. The opinions of other people, it doesn't matter. Go for what it is you want in life. I had to leave behind everything to get to where I am right now. I left behind an old job, old dreams, old habits, and all, like even my old friends and everything. It was like I went in a direction that was completely misunderstood by everybody. But it's like, what are you willing to risk? I had to learn to be lonely to find what was meant for me. You have to say no to the things that aren't meant to you, or meant for you, to find what is. And when you get brave enough to do that, and you can see what's on the other side of your fear is like infinite possibilities and choice and freedom, like that's the fucking vibe. That's what it's all about. It's not about the material shit that you can get on the way. It's about that feeling of freedom. And if you get a taste of that, your whole life will change. Nothing will be the same again. And there will be nobody that can put authority over you once you taste that. You're free. That's how I feel.
This isolation part is essentially there to teach you how to be by yourself. Once again, it's all the preparation for what's going to happen after death. You see what I mean? Now, through this isolation, you learn how to be with yourself and how to control, or you learn how to control the mind and how to be basically on top of it and in control of it, rather than seeking distraction from other people and seeking inflow from other people. I think that's the thing that we learn. And then as you get in touch with a higher part of yourself, you then learn how to direct yourself into whatever it is that you want. And then you don't need people anymore. I mean, most relationships, whether friendships or even, romantic relationships, they're codependence. I mean, codependency. They're not really friendships. A friendship is, for instance, I consider a friend somebody that I want to help, right? So if a friend is going through something, I would never empathize with them and be like, oh, you're doing so bad. Oh, yes, you're right. This is so hard. I would literally tell that friend, what are you talking about? You're stronger than this. You're better than this. Whatever you acknowledge in the other person, you grow at that point. You see. So if you validate the other person in their victimhood, you're actually hurting them. I know that's what most people consider that like harsh or cold. No, you're actually hurting the person if you validate them in their victimhood. You see. Now, most people, when they seek out companionship, that's what they're looking for. They're just people that want to hear the truth. People want a confirmation of what they already believe in. You see. So they're literally just talking in order to hear what they already believe in. And try it out. Don't agree with them. Give them the honest truth, and you will see how fast the conversation stops. So people are not even looking for honesty. They're looking for companionship. That's what they're doing. And companionship because they're terrified of the moment where they have to deal with their own mind. So this isolation makes sure that you have to deal with yourself. And at that point, you realize you don't need people. It's great to have people around, but you become self-sufficient. That's the best way to put it.
Yeah, you really do. I like what you said. You're speaking to their power, and that has a manifestation effect too, like how people view you, who you keep in your circle. Are they complaining all the time? Are they a victim constantly? Because like, I don't want to be around it. I want to be around the people that are the warriors, and to be inspired always by those around me. And I want people that view me as that, because even just their view of me adds into the fuel for manifesting the life I want. How people view you, that's an important thing.
Absolutely.
Yeah, the story you want to tell. What kind of life do you want to live? I know that when I die, I will have lived a legendary fucking life. And that's what matters to me.
I believe you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Kind of legendary. Come on, like with the stuff that we exchange privately, and it's kind of crazy already.
Oh goodness. Like so much. I'm like you, like I'm an extreme person. Like I go big or I go home, like, right? Like there's really no in between for me. And I enjoy that life. It's, you can learn, like you learn to live in the polarities, and, a lot of people don't understand that, but they lack passion. They're not going to feel those highs and the lows that come with it. But when you can be in both, like you're so powerful. The trick is just not to get lost in any of it. A lot of people are stuck in like the mentality of like the high vibe and the low vibe, but you can be so intentional with how you live your life, when you're in control, to be able to to choose solely what you're doing.
So the key word there, passion, right? I mean, passion is etymology opens up the universe for real. When you look at the etymology for passion, it's suffering. It's word for suffering. So your passion is what you're willing to suffer for. So, what would life be without suffering? There's no light without dark. There's no day without night. There's no high without low. The more you suffer for something, the sweeter the juice at the end of it. So
That's really beautiful. I just got goosebumps. Yeah. Yeah, it's an interesting way to live. I think a lot of people are
Man, like I wonder, like I don't want to jump topics here, but maybe that's why a lot of people enjoy like suffering during sex. You see, I mean, like maybe that's where the BDSM type of stuff comes from. You know, like you told me about that guy that enjoyed like having his breath control or something like that, right? Like that's a painful situation, but maybe that in his mind and his perception, it's the orgasm and the release. Then maybe that's an enormous high, you know, because there's a contrast there. You know? So I don't know, man. I don't see. This is where my mind works. I always go into those places. But the point is, um, yeah, I'm sure that we can't forget that it's as above, so below, as within, so without, and everything is dual. And the better it is in the end, the more you're gonna have to put up to get it.
yeah. And I guess that's just like the pain and the pleasure thing, you know, kind of going into the topic. It's I don't know how good sex could feel after a bout of celibacy or something like that. Going on a diet, finally caving and getting to eat those nachos. Um,
I know this guy who didn't eat for a very long time. No, he had no carbs for no, sorry, he didn't eat. He literally fasted for like months. The only thing he was drinking was like water and electrolytes. And he said he had an apple after those 40 days. And it was like his mind exploded. That's how good it was.
yeah. Well, that's the thing. Like that's being able to live in extremes. Like you're always feeling a lot of things. And, you know, a lot of people just like to stay in that comfort zone, but it's almost like a void. You know, I don't enjoy staying there that long. I know for myself, like I'll get bored. My mind needs to be fixated on something. I need to be creating. I gotta be interested in something. And it's just how we live. And yeah, some people are just wired that way though. That's gotta be more of like a Scorpio aspect, intensity. Um, I know in like human design, that kind of looks like a manifesting generator, which
I mean,
yeah.
this is one of the reasons why I always stayed away from drugs because I know that I don't know, I would probably be too intense with it. I would probably just like use them excessively, you know. So I stay away from them completely. Yeah.
Yeah, so do I. I'm like, nope. I stay away from all of that. Um, and I'm thankful for it. You know, a lot of people, even with like ayahuasca, like people are using all of these different things to try to get to these altered states. But I think it's really cool to not need any of that, you know? And I guess that's also like the price you pay. Heard it can be like it's so damaging, you know, to your body to experience I don't know, hijacking your way into those states, I think.
Yep.
Depending on what it is, I guess. But yeah, all the different ways people try to get that feeling. But I think it's really cool when you can live life and that feeling's part of it. You know, weaving almost that like bliss or euphoria into your day. Like I know when I have say I need to manifest something and it like I have a deadline, I've done like emergency magic and then it comes, I will cry happy tears. You know, it's just like I can't believe this is real. It's so like I'll be on the edge of my seat. It'll be like right before the deadline or something, and it comes through and in a more beautiful and better way than I could have expected. And I'm like that that gratitude I feel, you know, every single day. I would say even the place I got came through a miracle. Like I don't know how I got it, you know, but I wrote down everything I wanted and I affirmed it to be so and just lived life knowing I'd get something and I wrote and like it needs to be better than what I'm expecting. And I got it. And you know, if it wasn't for manifestation and work on myself and in confidence and stuff, I'd be in a really shitty high rise right now. Really annoyed doing coin laundry. So yeah, you gotta dream of a bigger life. Be willing to take risks. Um, what I wanted wasn't possible because we were in a renting crisis in Ontario at that time. So like I felt like I won the lottery, and it's kind of like an invitation into your life to when you see how much power you have, you can feel so much more gratitude for what comes into your life because you know what goes into creating these things. You know, even when um things don't go your way, you can see and understand that it's actually working for you. It's a refinement process. It's giving you what you need, not necessarily what you want. There's things I wanted to come so fast, but I needed to become, you know, stronger physically to be able to manage what I wanted. I needed to become better at money. I needed to ground myself more. There's things I need to do that I didn't want to do. And now that I've gone through it and did it, I was like, wow, I needed that. I'm so grateful, really. I think the real flex is actually being able to find like the gratitude in what you've got in life and really appreciating it and knowing you deserve more and accepting that you desire more, not having guilt over that. Throw the guilt in the trash can. We don't need it. We deserve lots. We can have so much more.
Yeah, that's definitely going to help us in moments. I think what people need on a day-to-day basis is because we can't be in one emotion all the time. It's like I said, it's dual. You're gonna have an extremely emotional high. Inevitably, you're gonna go just as low. So I think emotions are a little bit overstated, if that makes sense. Or they're like, of course, they're important. However, for practical living, I think the most important thing is to learn to control the mind, and it starts with small things, right? We control what we do, and through that, to an extent, we control our mind. So it starts with small things like make your bed. Right? I don't know. Read that fucking book that you bought and only wrote the first chapter and didn't look it up. Not because I mean
Oh, don't look at me. It's
statistics
like
say that
10 books on my bedside.
the statistics say that most people never read the books that they buy. Right? And I mean, it's the same with everything else, bro. My body's fucking aching. Go to the fucking gym. You said you go to the gym. Go there. And by taking charge of the actions, we take charge of the mind because that is it. I think what drives people crazy is the feeling of being powerless and
Mm,
not being able to take charge of the situation. Now, power exists on a spectrum. However, you can't jump to the highest level without controlling the smallest level. So it starts with very small things, very small activities. Okay, in ritual, yes, you can turn yourself into this incredible magical conduit that can affect things throughout the fucking globe. But your magical practice doesn't just take place in a magical circle. It's your everyday living. So most people care about things and try to talk about things that are not inside of their circle of control. And that's, by the way, the number one determined, or that's the number one quality that unsuccessful people have. They always care and talk about the stuff that is outside of their circle of control. What is
mm.
outside of our circle of control? What Kim Kardashian says or does. What Kanye West says about Jews, or you know,
Yeah.
it's bullshit that I have no control over. I have control over my immediate surroundings, what I do with my body, which is not normal. I mean, it is. I mean, there are people who don't have control over the body, as you know very well, right? So that itself is a great tool to learn, right? So yeah, so I take charge by getting up in the morning. I have a cold shower, and then I go to the gym. You do all the small things that suck, but as you do that, you take charge of your mind, and that gives you a feel that makes you feel better. Yes, you're gonna have this emotion, you're gonna have that emotion, but the point is control. Yes, you're gonna feel sad while you do it, or you're gonna feel upbeat about it, but you're gonna do the same thing regardless of how you feel, and that is the refuge that we all need. That's that's the feeling that we're looking for. We're looking for discipline and control, a feeling of it doesn't matter. I'm not the bitch of my emotions. I'm not in control of what happens from the outside. It doesn't matter what that person says or that person looked at me bad. or they give me a dirty look, and now I'm going to think about it the next 2 days, or 2 hours sitting in my chair. Why did they look at me like that? But there are people who are like that. I'm telling you, this is not like made up. There are people who think like that, you know. So we have to stop giving a fuck about that for once. You know, we don't have to mythologize our own emotions, and just take charge. We just have to take charge. We just have to do what we said we want to do. We have a to-do list. To fucking work through the to-do list. Doesn't matter how you feel, you do it, and that's going to be a feeling of accomplishment at the end of the day. And that's all we want. We want to feel momentum. I tell you what, we don't even want the end result. What we want is we want to know we're on the right path. We're on the right track, and we're moving forward. We want to have the feeling of momentum. We don't want the end result, because when we have the end result, it's game over, and that's going to bring us a black hole that makes us miserable. You know, there are interesting studies on this topic. So what we need is a goal that is in alignment with our purpose and our values, and we need to see that we're every single day we're working towards it, and we're making progress in that direction. And that's all we can ask for in terms of happiness. That is lasting happiness. You know, if I'm high and then, you know, super blissful, that doesn't last. You know? And I know I'm going to have to pay for that with a feeling of being extremely low.
Mm-hmm.
That's life, and that's to an extent it's the beauty of life, right? You remember the amusement park or the roller coaster? You remember that, the attraction, right?
Yes.
So we're going to go through ups and downs, but as we control our actions, we take charge of that, and that gives us a sense of control, and that's really what we want.
Yeah, I guess that's probably like the most magnetic feeling there is too. Being proud of yourself. Yeah. I used to do a gratitude list like at the end of every day while I was healing. And what I started doing was, instead of what I was grateful for, I started writing what I was proud of myself for. Yeah. And that was a really beautiful process. And I hope that kind of breaks the spell for anybody who's recovering from any of the new age bullshit with the high vibe and the low vibe. It's about what you do in a day and the steps you take towards it, not necessarily what emotions you have with it. Like it's I think it's just about like being honest with yourself about what you need and what you're feeling. Like when I used to think like, if you were gonna say a prayer or an invocation, like you have to do it in a really nice way and you have to be like poignant and say the right stuff. But I'm like, when I just have my daily communication, I'm swearing, I'm pissed off, I say like fucking hate this and this, and I'm like really not feeling good about that, but I'm like, I know I want to do better here, and I just say like all the cringiest things I'm thinking, and I'm just like really cool with the whole spectrum of whatever I need to go through to process it. And I don't really hold I never hold shame over any of it. That's I mean, humans have so much shame, and when you're able to drop that and just kind of just be an honest human and realize that it's a really imperfect existence, I don't know, being proud and feeling free is the best thing. It's like you're free to experience and express whatever you need to. And I mean, that transcends into even some of the things we do, you know. And I don't judge myself for, you know.
This Navy SEAL, he wrote a book on that topic or something similar. I don't know. He called it what was that? Extreme ownership, and he said discipline equals freedom, and that's there's a lot to that, right? Because yeah, the more you discipline yourself voluntarily in your own like on your own path, the more that is freedom, right? I mean, you can be anything, but you can't be everything. So by making a choice, you automatically cut the universe into this option and the rest, and this other stuff doesn't exist anymore. And you make a decision, boom, and then you stick with it, and you don't lose any energy on those other opportunities, choices, whatever. Fuck it, don't exist. And you know, and I think the world to an extent is turning into observers and the people that are being observed. You know, and you know, we got to stop. I think everybody needs to stop being a consumer.
Yeah.
Because most of it's bullshit anyways. They're just trying to they're just trying to infiltrate your mind and your emotions. And I mean, at the end of the day, it's all about revenue, right? Advertising revenue, and attention eventually leads to money, right? I mean, if you walk through a mall and you see a nice dress, the dress captures your attention, right? And then you walk in, you look closer, and your attention is still on it. You try it out, it fits, your attention is still on the dress, and eventually you buy it and you spend money. And it all started with the attention. And as long as you can capture the attention of someone, eventually you're going to spend money on you. And that's how advertising works. And we're 24 fucking 7. 24 fucking 7. We are like plugged into a thing that wants our attention. So we have to be really careful where we put it. And building a brand or building our empire, whatever, can only work if we have our attention on our shit, right? Not on anybody else's. So.
Yeah. Well, I guess if your energy is a currency, what are you paying attention to? You know? Yeah. That's why I love just being able to be obsessed with my business and my passion and learning. It just makes it like impossible to have small talk with people or listen, oh, the sports this and this justice warriors on the, these people are all angry about this, like you're saying. I'm just like, it just like goes right over my head. And then I'll just be like, well, I've clocked out of this conversation. Like, what are you doing with your life? Let's talk about that. That's where I get excited. But yeah, I don't know. So it's very easy to distract people. People don't want to deal with their own lives, so they fixate. And I guess that's why we have all these woke justice warriors these days. It's crazy. I mean, there's mobs of them.
What's your definition of a justice warrior? A social justice warrior? Or a woke person?
I guess like in wokeism, like people just get so angry about everything. People are angry about climate change. People are angry about LGBTQ. People are angry about Jordan Peterson having a voice. People are angry about Joe Rogan. They fixate on it. People are angry about the coaching industry. There's a whole podcast dedicated to just tearing it down. It's like, can you imagine taking the time out of your day just to destroy, just to like fixate on something? Like that seems like the definition of like mind sickness or like insanity, to spend all of your energy on just useless destruction. It's like, how are you making a difference in life? How are you really affecting this? It's just people that do that. And you know what, I used to at one point as well. So like I've been in it, I get it, but I don't want anything to do with it now. Like I'll that's how I would judge someone, on like how they're spending their energy, because it's waste and it's annoying. So now I just see that, even being that way myself, what did I accomplish? What was I building? What, like, the focus wasn't on what I'm good at, what I'm passionate about, what I can build. It was just, on what was wrong. So what are you going to call in more in your life? That you're as within, so without. Where do you want your focus to be? I guess that's kind of how I see it. It's just people who they use that obsession on things that aren't their life. And they're trying to affect change, and it could be good in some ways. I mean, some people have brought in change in legislature, but if they really want to do that, go be a lawyer, or go be a politician, and like get into the system and like really change it, instead of like becoming a keyboard warrior on the internet all day, just trolling. Like, that's such a waste of life to sit there and just do that. I don't know. I would never do it again. I've learned.
Yeah, it truly is. It truly is.
Yeah.
Yeah. Interesting definition. Interesting definition. What do I think about those guys? I think it's a power grab. I think everything in the world is a power grab. Even if it's a subconscious power grab, it's still a power grab. If you make somebody feel bad for something, it's very few of those people are really concerned about the environment or anything. It's more about a way of tearing down people that have unjustified power. And the unjustified power, I mean, it's in their eyes. The power is unjustified in their perception. That's really what it's about for the most part. You know. So yeah, I think how do I put it? I guess there, man, that's my opinion here is really unqualified because I know there's like genuine stuff that needs to be changed, but on the other hand, I know that a lot of people are just full of shit and they're just using they're using their own general discontent with life as and now they have an excuse to be just hateful and destructive because they have a certain outlet. There are many people who switch from one train of thought to the next as long as it's hateful and destructive, and they could be complete opposites and they would be the member of any movement that is just destructive enough. So
Yeah.
It's
like ethical hypocrisy.
Yeah. And like I said earlier, I mean, the way to change the world is you start with your own life, and most of those people are not in control over their own lives. That's really what it is. So
Yeah. Like I says, Jordan Peterson would say, clean your fucking room first. Clean up your house. What does your house look like? What do your finances look like? What are your relationships look like? Do you have goals? Like start there. Because when you focus on that, you don't have any time. You will not have any time to spend it on anything else. Be the change you wish to see in the world, truly. The whole world would be better for it.
There's also the problem of complex systems. We don't intuitively think in terms of complex systems because a complex system consists of different parts, and you change one part, everything else changes, and the whole world works as a complex system. So it's literally impossible to oversee it, right? And even experts, they usually have no idea exactly how things work. They might have an idea or more of an idea than normal people, but it's super hard to understand. And the whole world is a complex system. You can't say that there's one elite or one group of people that control everything. It's impossible. So it's very complicated. So I like to, I mean, for different areas in life, you need different types of thinking. So intuitively, we think linearly, right? What we have to learn to do is systemic thinking in order to accomplish better things in life. For instance, business is the thing. The bigger you want to grow your companies, the more successful you want to be in business, the more systemically you have to be able to think. So in relationships as well, it's a systemic thing. But when it comes to life in general, this is not the highest level of consciousness that we can accomplish. The highest level of the highest level of consciousness that we can accomplish is actually a type of thinking where we adjust our lens based on the results that we want to accomplish in life. So if I want to get a specific result, I got to choose what lens I'm going to use to look at the problem in order to solve it in a way that is conducive to the outcome that I want to have. And that is really something that we need to learn, because it's the natural thing to do is, and that has a lot to do with saving energy, saving mental energy. Like all of these things are complicated. It's hard. It takes effort. So it's much easier to have like one opinion and to stick with that opinion and to try to make the world match that opinion or that landscape that you have in your head, right? It's much easier than to try to adjust your own landscape to better understand the world. And I think that's also a big problem. The world is way too complex to understand often. And yeah, I think this whole woke thing, and the social justice thing is, you just find one big bad guy that as a metaphor that you can attack, and that guy is responsible for all the problems in the world. But it doesn't work that way, unfortunately.
It was interesting because for a while I was really polarized, like against the Canadian government. I was really angry at all the changes that happened with COVID, and I spent a lot of energy on that. But I had a friend who immigrated from India kind of school me and being like, do you know how good you have it here, Robin? Like, do you understand like how much you have available to you. You're complaining when I couldn't even go to school, you know, like how much privilege we have here. And it shook me. And I was like, holy shit. I spent all that time and energy creating an enemy, a villain out of something where, you know, I didn't see the how good, you know, we really have it here. And you know, sometimes it just takes perspective. You know, that was a huge perspective shift. And one of the most freeing things I've learned to do on my path is try not to be attached to what I think things need to be, or like be attached to a belief system. I like to be like New Day Who Dis, kind of like a playoff on the new phone Who Dis, because it's just about waking up each day and being willing to have my mind changed. I don't want to be fixated on one point of view, on one train of thought, on one way of being, on one goal I have. Even the more that I'm willing to let my mind be changed, the more that I grow quickly. And I've been able to like move quickly in my life because of that, because I didn't stay like too attached or rigid to certain things. And that's a huge part of it. Like when I know better, I'll do better. And I'm trying to really align my life with that statement. I mean, that's I can say that here. And you know, it can sound really good. It's a whole other practice to actually live by that. But I'm trying. I'm absolutely trying. And you know, it's one of my goals to be like, I really want to follow that if I can, because yeah,
So
I yeah.
another point is, I recently had a discussion about with a guy who's like, oh man, I can't find meaning in life. I can't find meaning in life. I can't. Um, I don't know what to do. And at the same time, he likes to think of himself as this extremely intelligent person, as like a genius, right? He's putting out all of these big words. You know, do you know people who like to use a lot of like um big words, but it's like it's just they don't even know what they mean, and just they just try to sound smart, right? He's one of those guys.
It's kind of like
And
mental masturbation.
yeah, exactly. And of course, man, I can verbally I can destroy any constructive thought easily by just denying its validity. Is like I don't believe that. Yeah, okay, I just gave you the facts why I don't believe it. Okay, cool. Then I told him, well, if you're so smart, intelligence, part of the definition of intelligence is to see patterns in seemingly random events, right? That's the definition of fluid intelligence. So why don't you figure out what life or what you have, what goal you have, and then you just work on that goal? Because I mean, what else would life be? You don't have to. There doesn't have to be one goal for everyone, you know. So pick a goal and accomplish that, or work for that. Something that makes you feel like you're on the right path. Something that is exciting to you. Something that is worthwhile. But at the same time, I also think that guy had or has completely fucked up his reward system through drugs and other things. So that could also be a problem if you don't feel any sense of reward from accomplishing like small things. And you need a massive explosion of either porn or cocaine or whatever to feel anything, then you have a problem, right? Now, that's also one of the reasons why I stay from drugs, because it fucks up your reward system. You can't feel any type of fulfillment from, okay, I went to the gym today and I had a good workout and I feel good in my body right now. That doesn't work for people like that. They've completely destroyed their brain. So stay away from drugs. Anyone who's listening, don't do it. Don't do it. It's not worth it.
Yeah, and porn.
And
Super
porn. Yeah, stay
addicting.
away from porn too. Stay away from porn. And all you guys are just gonna feel like you have a small penis anyway. So don't stay away from it. It's not good for you. Right? Yeah. And you're gonna feel like you're gonna be a cuck. You're gonna be a cuck. Why? It trains you to watch another man fuck a woman. What is that gonna do to you? You're literally you're gonna get off of watching other men having sex with a woman. So what's that gonna do to you? Next time when you have actual sex, if you manage to get it up, you're going to fantasize about something else. You're going to fantasize about a porn that you've seen, or you're going to fantasize about another guy having sex with the woman that you're fucking right now. Like, how fucked up is that? You're not even going to be with her in that moment. So stay away from porn. One of the worst things you could do. Absolutely.
Yeah, it's crazy how like common porn is, and how it's like the elephant in most rooms, and nobody really wants to talk about
The
it.
brain, it literally works like cocaine. Just cocaine, it can't work that long, but you can watch porn for hours and you have an extreme high for hours and hours, and your brain gets completely desensitized. And it's literal, like it's always available. We have our phone, so I mean, I'm not surprised at all. I mean, people can't stay away from sugar either, you know. So, right? So, I'm sure if cocaine was legal, everybody would be snorting
Yeah.
it. That would be a funny world.
It already is a funny world. Um, yeah, we're all addicted to comfort, addicted to that dopamine, those instant hits of, wow, that feels good. Um, yeah, I don't know. I hope that kind of shakes people awake a little bit out of their slumber. Um,
Everybody should create their own porn library. Everybody should personal porn star. That's what I think. Everybody.
Amen to
Think
that.
about that's the solution to all the world's problems. I'm telling you, become your own porn star. Why? Because as a porn star, first of all, you got to be fit. You go to the gym. You start eating healthy because you want to go look good on camera, right?
Yeah.
You want to have a awesome. Okay, maybe the dialogue is not that great, but it solves a lot of problems. What if you create like a high? There are these high quality. I'm sure there are high quality porns where it's like an actual, dialogue and like a seduction and things like that, right? So become your own porn star, and every partner that you seduce, you just create another addition to your library, and then when you're old and gray and you can't get it up anymore, you watch at the library of your life. See, I got the solution. This is it, Robin. This is it, Robin. I solved the world's problems.
This is
Become
groundbreaking. I'm so glad I got this on tape.
star. That's the solution to life. Solved it.
Done. Well, there's nothing left for us to talk about. That's it.
Let's get to work then. Let's get to work. Okay, let's
Come
get to
on,
work.
people.
Eat healthy, go to the gym, look at yourself in the mirror, like practicing, things like that. That's how it's done.
And that's a wrap. I meant unintended.
All right, so we wrap this up. I think we did like 3 hours again.
Yeah. All right. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. Frank, where can everybody?
Become your own porn. Always keep that in mind. How do I become the best porn star I can be? And all your life's problems are solved.
Life mantra. I'll have to put that on my whiteboard. My vision board.
You know that movie, Boogie Nights? Have you seen that movie, Boogie Nights?
No. Boogie Nights?
Yeah, it's hilarious. It's Mark Wahlberg. He plays this young, dumb guy who has a massive penis. So he's casted into his first porn movie, and his name is Dirk Diggler, right? Dirk Diggler. Take him through his porn career. It's hilarious. It's like a comedy, also tragedy, because he's really like not all there. Like he's really dumb. But they show his journey through the porn industry. It's hilarious. Like it's a really good movie. You should watch it.
I'm gonna watch that tonight.
Boogie Nights. It's called Boogie Nights.
Boogie Nights. Mark Wahlberg. I like that other movie. What is it? Him and Will Ferrell. What's it called? I can't remember. They did one that's really funny. Butchering it.
The other guys.
Yes, that's it. That's it. I really like Dirty Mike and the Boys. Yeah. Oh my God. Well, These were some serious words of wisdom here.
Anytime.
Hey guys, this is all about being multi-dimensional. Nothing's off the table when you're free. No shame here.
Just watch. I'm going to put out a spiritual porn line or something like that. Spiritual porn movie. Spiritual porn site. Hey, isn't that must be a market niche? That must be a niche that is uncovered or not covered yet.
I don't know. That would be interesting.
Spiritual porn. I am goddess Hecate. I am whatever. I am this guy. Right. So yeah, just old myths replayed in the porn format, you know?
It's got to exist somewhere. It's got to. I mean, all the crazy ritual sex and stuff like that. There's got to be somewhere in the dark web where that exists.
Yeah.
And here we're like, nobody watch porn, but I'm like, I'm gonna go watch that porn. If it exists.
Aphrodite's getting it. And when you get caught, what? This is my mythological study. What do you want from me?
Supernatural studies. Oh my God. Well, Frank.
See his massive obelisk. Massive obelisk. Do you see it?
Oh my gosh, I'm gonna sound like an idiot, but what's an obelisk?
It's this phallus symbol in ancient Egypt. I'm sure you've seen it before.
Oh yeah, they have them like erected all in like around the world. Yeah.
Nice pillar.
Nice pillar, yeah. Disco stick.
You're gonna women are gonna start telling guys, "Hey, you have a nice pillar. I can see you have a nice pillar." Nice obelisk.
Obelisk. Yeah, I like that one. That's hot.
I can see your hands. I'm sure you have a nice obelisk.
Is that an obelisk in your pocket, or are you just happy to see me?
Women check guys' hands actually and think about what his penis size would be. Or
it's not true though. It doesn't always line up.
They do check though. Right? Try to figure out what the guy is the guy packing based on his hands. Do they try to figure that out?
I would just look at their pants.
Okay, yeah. Duh. Yeah.
Yeah, we're making it difficult with the hands there. They lie.
That's how you spot trannies. Always look at the hands. That's how you can spot them.
Interesting. I've never tried. Yeah.
Well, that's how you can see them. There's a difference between a masculine hand and a feminine hand.
Well, according to Jerry Seinfeld, no. Have you seen man hands? Oh, an episode of Seinfeld where they use like a man's hands as the woman, so it's just like he's on a date, but you can only see her hands. It's hands. It's really funny.
Okay.
Yeah. Whew. Well, this talk was quite a roller coaster, Frank. Yeah. Things and stuff.
I just got an idea for, if you're familiar with Greek mythology, dude, you will know that, man. Zeus visits Greece. That would be quite some movies, because in Greek mythology, Zeus was fucking anything that had a pulse,
Mm-hmm.
So that could be, and his wife, Hera, she was always mad at the girls that he was with instead of mad at him. So it's funny.
That is interesting.
A lot of things that come out of there.
With King Solomon as well, didn't he have tons of wives?
Sure he did.
Yeah. Sure. That would be really funny to see the new era of porn. The occult library.
Yep. There's something in the making, man. I'm sure there's something in the making.
For anybody out there, you're welcome. We just gave you your next business adventure.
Yeah, there's going to be a private casting. Message me on my social medias and send me an email. If you're hot, you can get a. No, I'm just kidding. I'm going to do a private castings.
Sexual sorcery.
Well, I gotta know
Actually,
if
that's
they,
probably an actual thing. So
gotta know if they qualify. High quality actors.
that would be an interesting application form. Well, I don't know. Did we cover everything?
I think we did, yeah. And we gotta do more more calls too. So
Yeah. Yeah. For those of you that are watching, this is going to be a regular thing. So we've got, yeah, weekly chats coming up. So if there's any topics that you want to hear us cover, let us know. I want to hear it. Put in the comments.
dive deep into those topics. Absolutely. We're gonna explore them from all angles. Sure. Yeah. Lots of juicy topics for sure.
Try not to get too turned. This is just our psychic seduction power. We can talk about anything. But that's an actual thing. Psychic seduction.
Yeah, hell yeah.
Yeah, we'll have to save that for another day because I wanted to talk about it. It's very interesting, the things you can do with sorcery. Could be a sorcery pimp.
Yep. I'm an expert on that topic, no problem.
Yeah, so yeah. Thank you all for listening. Stay tuned for more. Yeah, Frank, how can everybody find you? If you dare.
Find me, damn. Okay, how can they find me? They can find me. I have a YouTube channel. It's called Grail of the Serpent. I also have a domain, grailoftheserpent.com. And you'll find, most of the stuff there. I also have a newsletter. It's called Your Favorite Sorcerer Speaks.
That, yeah, people can see like the actual possibilities with magic and intentions and, the power of your mindset. And, confidence comes in all different forms and
Sizes.
and sizes.
That's stop. Let's stop. Okay.
We're done. Time out. Oh goodness. All right. Awesome. I hope you all have a lovely evening, and I guess that's it for tonight. Bye, Frank.
Bye.